Fireworks waiting on the edge of the night. Stars over Mossy Creek burning bright. Freedom Bash, come gather round. We're still putting culture in the ground. Raise a jar, raise a glass. Here's to the ones who make things last. No shortcuts here, no borrowed dreams. Just hard work, living in the seams. Turn it loose, strike the spark. Build tomorrow after dark. Freedom to build, freedom to try, freedom to fail and still get it right. Freedom to live, freedom to build. Pass it along so the whole world knows. We're still growing. Tennessee hills in a lab like glow.
Well, hello. I am a couple minutes late, apparently. Kind of goes that way for me a lot. Hold on, let me set this. Well, I hope everyone's doing all right today. I am doing exceptionally well, which is nice. You guys get to see my transition mess. I am not finished with the lab like I was hoping I would be last week. So we do have things changed around. I can show you guys how that's changed here in a little bit. Got a couple of announcements to make as well, but we'll wait until people join us for that. And I guess we need to make sure we tell people that we are live on YouTube, don't we? So we'll do another one of these like, I don't want to be a valley girl, right? You want to, how do we do the stream? Like that. How about, it looks like I'm talking because I'm talking. There we go. See, that's not so, well, there you go. You can see it. Not so bad. We'll just put that we're live to everybody so we can get people on here. I always forget to list that we're going live, so all right. All right, so we're hit, this is Instagram, so we hit next. We're at Mossy Creek Mushrooms. Live on YouTube. All right, cool. We got that one. And then gotta make sure it posts, and then we'll do Facebook. So we've got a bunch of cool stuff coming up. So we've got a couple announcements to make. I've got the lab, you know, sorry, Rhizofunga, the owner, that was, he and I've been talking today. And so he was just saying something that made me laugh. Live on YouTube. Next. Not now. Share. Cool. All right, guys. So I am here. Hola, Senor Mossy. Hola, Senor Plum, I guess, since Mossy's the first. And Plum's the first. Otherwise, it'd be Senor Repeat. Fat Bike Expedition. Just found your channel today, been researching how to start growing. Well, man, I'm glad you were able to find me today, as well as join me for your first live. That's pretty cool. A lot of people don't even know that I do lives, so I try to I try to tell people, but the live streams, the notifications don't always go out the way they're supposed to. So, well, what's up, Steve? Howdy, howdy. Hello, Eddie. Welcome to the live. So yeah, we've got. I've been moving the lab around, so you're seeing a big transitional mess right now with my cable management and air hose and all that kind of stuff back there. So this is now, there we go. That is now the packing table, plus we've got our stir bars going all the way down the length, our microscopes, which has actually freed up the stainless steel table for doing a little bit of, like I got the sterilizer on there, but I'm able to do a lot of anything that needs easy, clean surface right there. So the stainless steel table's over there. And then we'll be able to get the big screen TV hung up right about here. So, right there we go. Everything's backwards for me. I have to keep reminding myself that. I've got a plant tissue culture grow out rack over there now. We've brought the flow hoods to that side where my packing table was before. But we find the packing table is nicer because we can access it from both sides lengthways. So I've got like all my liquid culture grow out rack over there, my plant tissue culture rack going over there, my to be worked on rack, and I'll get on the phone here in a little bit. We'll go over there and we'll show you guys how I've got things getting set up. But I've got a lot of more organizational work to do. Thankfully, I've been able to let Samantha just loose on a bunch of it, and she's been doing her thing, which is organizing. She loves organizing. It's like soothing is what she says to organize. So, what's up, Dish? Welcome, man. It's the end of the month. What were you able to accomplish? A lot. I have this. Maybe it's not weird. I feel like it's weird to me, but I always like have these goals. I start working on them. I might even accomplish all of them. Let's just assume I do. I don't always, but I'll share a little bit of my medical history or my medical information with you guys here in just a moment too, which, you know, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. But the I'll have these goals. Let's give me a given that I'll get them all done. We'll just say that for now. But if I get them all done at the end of the month, I'll be like, I accomplished nothing. I accomplished nothing, and then I'll sit there and I'll think about it, and I'll eventually start going through, and I'll be like, man, it really doesn't feel like I accomplished that much, but I did. I actually accomplished a lot. But I always feel like I'm looking to the future and looking to the past and never really realizing what I'm actually doing in the present, and that's a hard thing to try to fix, I guess. I'm trying to get better at it, but what was I able to accomplish? Okay, so I got the pink oyster breeding program underway, going solidly. I have I did a bunch of aquarium plants, plant tissue culture work. So I optimized a little bit of my workflow for plant tissue culture. I got my Fat Man liquid culture master going so that I mean not liquid culture, my grain spawn master going so that I can test or start breeding that for faster growth and a more consistent yield. We got so many orders out this month. It's been kind of crazy. We've rearranged the lab twice in that time period. I have learned a lot about autoclaving, different plant tissue culture work. I have set up an affiliate program, which that's our announcement today. I'll get back to that here in a moment. And then, oh my gosh, personal stuff. We did a lot of cool personal things. We started up a new get-together for Wednesday evenings, which is super cool. I really enjoyed that the past couple of weeks. Started a new workout routine this month. That's been nice because I'm back to lifting heavy, and I'm really looking forward to bulking back up and getting that kind of doorbuster build I used to have. Losing the belly, gaining the shoulders, getting all that reversed. And by the end of the month, so what, tomorrow, I will have tried Vyvanse for the first time. That was the medical thing I was going to share with you. My doctor, I was getting to my doctor's appointment this week and was going over my blood work. My doctor was like, have you been diagnosed with ADHD? And I'm like, yes. Yes, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm pretty positive, it stuck around. And she's like, okay, well, have you ever been medicated for it? And I was like, I was as a kid, but I didn't like it. She's like, do you have, yeah, I was like, so screw it. I'll try it. I will try Vyvanse. So we're gonna try that one time, but I'm interested because I've had a few friends that I started talking to because I was actually considering trying Adderall, like asking her about Adderall and never did. But a bunch of my friends were like, they hated Adderall. I had a couple of friends that loved Adderall, but the Vyvanse was what most of them suggested, and they were like, I like it because it's like I can focus, but I don't feel stimulated the way, like I've taken a drug or something like that. Like he's like, I just can focus, and then it wears off, and I can not focus as much. So pretty excited by that. We'll see. I'm normally not a take medications kind of guy if I can help it, but I will try it at least because I was reading up on it. I can take it, and I can stop taking it if I don't like it. Was watching your grow room video, then seeing the live. Well, man, excellent. By the way, I have these every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and it's a great place. I usually spend 1 to 3 hours. I mean, like I've got a lot of 3 hour live streams out there, but I'll do 1 to 3 hours. And the biggest thing I've got is please ask questions. If you have any questions, please ask me. This is the time to do it. This is my being just because of the YouTube channel and business, I've had to cut myself off from being as accessible to people, just because it's, for your mental health, that kind of stuff. Like, I can't be on 24/7 for people. But this is my dedicated time to get out there. I tell everyone, like, if you want a free consult, this is the closest thing you're going to get to a free consult with me. But yeah, I don't, just get on the phone and answer a billion questions. I'll answer one or two typically, and then at that point, I'll start suggesting a consult to you. I've kind of pissed people off with that sometimes, but I've definitely feel like I want to remain accessible to people. So, and then you, by asking questions, commenting, doing these kinds of things, actually help generate content for the live stream. But also, your questions may be answering questions for other people that they don't feel comfortable asking, right? I know that people start at different levels, and they come from different spaces. So this is a really good place to ask your questions that you're like, I feel stupid asking this. I'm not going to treat you like you're stupid just for asking it. So I might disagree with some of your decisions or processes, but that's one of the cool things about biology-based businesses is that there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And once you get a system that works for you, that's the real thing. Is that it's the outcome. If your outcome is good, then obviously your processes work, right? So, just I wanted to orient you to how this goes. Please keep coming back every Thursday. Ask as many questions as you want to ask. This is your all space. I will ramble if I will ramble if necessary, if there's not, people commenting, but if there is people commenting, that makes it a lot easier for me, especially as an ADHD person, right? Well, hello, Chrissy. Welcome. Stormborn. Vivance changed my life. Allowed me to focus for the first time in my life. I can totally get that. Teddy? Oh. Hey, baby. He was screaming at you. Welcome back, baby. But yeah, so I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to try the Vivance. I've got to go by the pharmacy and grab it. But thank you, Samantha. I look forward to trying it and seeing if it actually helps me focus. But I've heard a lot of good things from people about it. I've heard good things about Vivance. Really? Okay. I mean, see, this is the thing. I keep coming across it, and a lot of people seem to be having good results with it. And one of the nice things is I was talking to the doctor about it, and apparently she was kind of going over like how it's supposed to be gentle up and gentle down. It's not supposed to be a rocket ship up and a crash landing, on the way back down. And we were discussing, like, I just wanted to make sure that if I tried it and I started doing it, that I could get back off of it without a bunch of horrendous, side effects. And she was like, yeah, that's actually one of the nice things about Vivance is like, you got 2 or 3 days where you got to work, take your Vivance. But if you're going on vacation for a week and you just want to relax and you don't want to have to focus and all that kind of stuff, just don't take it. And I was like, that sounds perfect. I mean, it kind of sounds like the focus pill from The Expanse, right? I think that's a little bit more fast acting. But the Martians use when they're interrogating people. Do you know how to grow Amanita muscaria? I know that... So it's a mycorrhizal mushroom. And the best advice I can give you as far as research and to point you in the right direction would be to read Mycorrhizal Planet by Michael Phillips. I'm saying a lot today. I'm very distracted today. I'm very distractible. I got a lot of things going on. My mind's been staying on. But yeah, as far as I can, as far as I know, that would be the best place to start. I don't actually know how to grow it, as in like I've never grown it. I know the theory behind it, um, but I don't know of anybody that grows it. I've never seen anyone grow it. So typically, the way you would grow it would be to grow a tree that has that fungal partner at the roots. That's actually part of what I'm working on with the plant tissue culture work. Is I want to be able to like grow sterile oak trees, right? And if I can grow sterile oak trees by, producing 1,000 little oak plantlets in a cup, and then plating those, or plating them out, but cupping them out to the plant tissue culture cups with no fungal partners, and then I can introduce, chanterelle or, whatever mycorrhizal fungi I want to at that point. It's been something I've been working on for a couple of years now, is working with that, and I think that would be the only way to do it. Would be to get the Amanita muscaria mycelium. I assume it's opportunistic enough to grow on most of the media that we use, something like our spore kindler formula or some sort of dextrose agar plates or something. Assuming that it is, and I've never tried muscaria. I don't think I've ever seen it. We have pantheri here, Amanita pantheri, which is a close cousin, but I don't think we have muscaria here. And then you would want to grow the evergreen that it's associated with. I'm not sure which one that is. I think it's a pine, but I'm not entirely sure. Hey, Mama. Good to see you. How much would grains being too dry affect growth speed if they were inoculated with agar? A lot. Your moisture content of your grains is incredibly important. It affects leap off. Leap off being how quickly the mycelium will leap off your inoculum into the actual substrate. So now leap off is often determined, I feel like, more by the inoculum, the nutrition left over in the inoculum that acts like a fat reserve so that it can leap off. But if something's too dry, you'll see the mycelium try to hit and it stalls out, right? You'll see a lot of heavy metabolite secretions right there, but if it exhausts its a local supply of water, it'll just stall out and it won't really do much. So that's the other thing, is your primary growth phase, right? After the leap off and when it starts to go through your primary growth. Man, I just got a headache all of a sudden. If you have that primary growth phase will be completely stalled out if it's too dry. So you really want to work on that. Your moisture content is really, really important, and the way that you can test it a lot of times if you're doing soak is to press into the grain. I like the grain to be soft enough that if I squeeze it really hard, it'll pop. But a lot of people do the fingernail test where they put the fingernail in and it should bend when you poke it. I like oats best because oats you can really hydrate and then you can abuse them. Oats are tough, they're fibrous, they have a lot of lignin, they have a lot of structure, but they also have a lot, for a grain, of protein and fats and a lot of nutrition. So to me, oats are perfect because they're highly nutritious, they have good leap off, they're easy to hydrate, they're easy to not overhydrate because they're so tough, all that kind of stuff. So it can affect things big time. I look at being medicated for ADHD no different than being medicated for diabetes or high blood pressure. I would agree. I agree to an extent, for sure, Chrissy. So the way I look at it is, I don't have a problem if I'm in the woods. If I'm in an environment where my attention can flit. So I don't think ADHD. I don't actually look at it. I look at it as an environment, a genotype to environment mismatch. In this day and age, we can't, it doesn't pay off to be ADHD. And I get it. People say it's a deficit. I don't think it's a deficit, except in this context, or in our industrial, civilized context. If I was out in the woods, and as a fisherman, ADHD is great as a fisherman. ADHD is great as a hunter. ADHD is being like so. I think it's just another way of being. Whereas I don't think diabetes or high blood pressure are necessarily alternate ways of being that, given the right context, like my heart, if my high blood pressure is high, that's bad for me no matter what. It's not necessarily dependent on the. So I agree in the context of our civilization. It's kind of nice to be able to modify my thinking patterns. But if I'm out in the woods, I don't need to take it, and I don't need it to focus because I'm getting stimulated enough. So I look at it as very similar, but not at the same time. As in, if I don't get medicated for ADHD, it's not life-threatening. But if I don't get medicated for diabetes, it's life-threatening. But I agree with you that the stigma shouldn't be there, because if I'm built for a different environment and I'm forced to live in this environment, then I ought to have a way of handling that environment in some way. So I'm trying to get away from Master's Mix. I know you hate corn. I don't hate corn. I love corn as a food source for humans, but for mushrooms, it's just not the best. I'm testing scratch feed. It's made up of oats, milo, and cracked corn. My mix is 30% grain to wood. It's growing in twice as fast. My mix is 30% grain to wood. Scratch feed. Protein content of scratch feed. What you want to look for is just protein content of 4.5 to 5%. Scratch feed typically contains a low protein content of 7.5 to 9%. So let's just go 7.5. And then you said that's about 30% of your total mix. Okay. That actually may come out pretty good. Yeah, that might be a really good way to go. Now, I will say that the fact that it's growing in faster doesn't surprise me. That's a lot of available nutrition. There's probably some minerals and stuff in there as well. There's probably plenty of calories, which is good because that's energy that it can use up. The question I would have is, what's the nitrogen content after it's the grow-in phase? And if your nitrogen content is too high, you'll either have suppressed yields, mutated-looking mushrooms, or it may not fruit at all. We've had certain strains of oysters that once you get above a certain protein content, mainly really nitrogen content, but nitrogen is a protein-bound molecule. So what you want is 4.5 to 5% of your total dry weight being about 4.5 to 5% protein, which should give you a good nitrogen content for those things. But yeah, I don't like corn necessarily as a spawn source. Popcorn seems to work better than others. I bet dent corn would work pretty well. Yeah, a lot of corn's just too sugary. What problems did you have with it? Okay, yeah, I answered that, I guess. But it was wet. Corn, the problems I had with corn, I like corn if you get the big kernels, and if you just have a little bit of the mixture, no more than 25% of your spawn mixture. Corn is mostly empty energy. There are some nutrients in it, but it is not a nutritious grain when compared to oats or milo or millet. All three of those have higher protein contents and a higher fiber content. And the fiber is really good, actually. Mushrooms really respond to fiber. I bought some pre-sterilized rye jars, and they were done in about 3 weeks. But with agar from the same master, they are going super slow and stalling. So I bought some pre-sterilized rye jars, and they were done in about 3 weeks. But with agar from the same master, they're going super slow and stalling. What do you mean by that exactly? Are we talking... When you say they were done in 3 weeks, what do you mean done in 3 weeks? Like they grew in within 3 weeks? And then you had another set that you put agar in and they did not, or they've gone for 3 weeks? clarify that just a little bit for me, Mortified? You're very welcome. I I'm sorry I couldn't answer a better better what on the mycorrhizal stuff. Mycorrhizal mushrooms are still they're still being heavily studied, and we still don't know a ton. Michael Phillips, that book I was telling you about, Mycorrhizal Planet, he does a lot of really good like working knowledge. I mean, he's got a lot of good science in there too. Don't get me wrong. A lot of good research is in there, and there's probably been new papers since then. But he's got a really good like set of here's how to work with mycorrhizal fungi. So that book comes highly recommended from me. Doing oats now, I did myself, and they're going very fast. That doesn't surprise me. Microspore syringe. Okay, I got you. Doing oats now, I did myself, and they're going very fast. Agar should go faster than a microspore syringe. You should definitely see growth faster, and you should see full colonization much quicker because it's got typically more biomass to work with in a big way. So. Chrissy, it says that you need a code, just so you know. So it says that you need a new code. So yeah, with the oats, that's the multi-spore syringes should always be slower than your agar. Corey, trying to cultivate lion's mane mycelium to add to my lion's mane tincture. Don't want to do grain. I want to be able to harvest pure mycelium. Well, if you insist on doing the mycelium and not the mushroom, I'm pretty firmly in the mushroom camp over the mushroom mycelium debate. That said, if you're wanting to do mycelium, the best way to do it would be to do liquid culture, and then test. You're going to want to do all kinds of testing. I got a video coming out in the next week called QC the LC, which is just quality control the liquid culture, and it's all about how to test your strains for bacteria, molds, things like that. And the basics of it for you should be that you should do plate tests, so a couple of drops. Each batch should get about three plates done. I think Samantha does 6 plates per batch. You'll want to do a microscope screening. That would be really helpful. We do a sniff test, which is just smelling it. And you want to do that. You want to like pull a syringe and put it in something and then smell it. You obviously don't want to smell your liquid culture if you're trying to keep it clean. And we do a visual test. Like I said, we do a visual scan through the microscope. We do a grain test because grain exposes a lot of weaknesses when you go from liquid culture to grain. So you want to do these kinds of things. And as far as like harvesting the mycelium, I think you can absolutely do that very easily. So you have all kinds of filtration processes. You can use a centrifugal filter. You can use mesh screens and just do a gravity filter where you pour it. Algae Research Supply has an algae harvesting screen that's made for spirulina, but would work for mycelium. Now, I don't know how you would keep it from clogging up or unclog it over time, but there are the ways. They've got these funnel bags that are made out of a mesh where you could pour it in, and it will drain at every point that comes in contact with the funnel, and then the funnel shape allows the liquid to just continue going down. You can use a Buchner funnel, which is a vacuum-assisted funnel. Cell Treat has some really good deals on Buchner funnels. They're a irradiated plastic so that it's gamma radiation, which is gone by the time you get it, but everything is perfectly sterilized. And then you can just open that and use it as a consumable. You pour your mixture in, and then you hook up the vacuum, and it will suck the fluid in, but it leaves what you're trying to harvest on the top there. The centrifugal filters, so just using a centrifuge to filter, is one of my favorite ways, but it's a little bit more expensive. You can even put it in like they make the crap. What is it called? There's a material. People put stuff in the material and they just squeeze it. Cheesecloth, like cheesecloth will actually work for mycelium. You might lose a little bit, but you could collect the mass that way and squeeze out your liquid. And then if you have your liquid saved in something, you can use that liquid and filter it in a finer filter to get your smaller particles if that's what you're wanting to do. But a lot of times when people are doing the liquid culture or the mycelium, they actually want the metabolites. That's the real argument, is that it's not just found in there's like all these metabolites that are in there. But also if you're doing it in liquid culture and you just want the mycelium, it's going to be way more important that you pay attention to the nutrients in your broth, your LC medium. Something like our elixir of mycelial mastery is a good way to go. The liquid culture premix that we sell, but even if you don't use that, you're going to want to make one. You don't want to use like honey water or Caro or something like that, because empty empty liquid culture premix is going to make an empty extract. You're going to have fewer of the metabolites that they're wanting. And you're also going to want to harvest part of the liquid, is what they're discussing with these metabolites. So you're going to want a way that you can separate the metabolites from the actual liquid culture broth. I don't actually know much about that. I've not done that. You could do the centrifuge. I know you could do it because it would pack the different constituents in layers, and then you could collect from that. I'm a bigger fan of, especially of people that are beginning. If you must have mycelium, then I would grow it on a solid substrate, but one that's maybe a little, if you're worried about the starches or whatever, then I would perhaps soak the mycelium in some sort of solvent and extract it that way, and just not do a powder, because then you still want the metabolites and things, is what Paul Stamets is saying. I'm not as big on it. Everything I've seen on the mycelium being better than mushrooms side is stuff that was done by the people selling the mycelial, the mycelium based extracts, and that there's not been as much third-party testing on them. And the guy that wrote The Mushroom Cultivator with Paul Stamets, Chilton, he is firmly in the mushroom camp, in the whole mushroom camp. So it's not like there's, he and Paul are you might as well consider them peers. And Chilton is the one that, I'm not saying that I picked Chilton over Stamets. I think I have issues with both of them in their own way, but I am definitely with Chilton on this particular issue. Oats or goat? If only it was oats or goats, but then if you said goats, it's just not the same, right? Oat is the goat. I agree. Oats are the grain. They are the perfect grain. I saw a photo on Facebook that supposedly had an amanita growing in a tub. Don't think the person meant to do it. Of course, everybody was arguing about it. Supposedly there are a few. There are, just like there are opportunistic morels, there are morels that don't need a mycorrhizal partner, but the best morels do. I don't know about the amanitas. Amanitas are not something that I know a ton about. I've not really studied amanitas. Most of my knowledge is in the white rot realm, so I tend to look more at just straight up saprobes, basically nutrient recyclers. Mycorrhizal is something I've definitely wanted to get into for a while, but even then Amanita is way down on my list for that. So I am interested just because, right? But but I've just not really tried it. Now, as far as the tub goes, it's possible they got a single one that just does better, or maybe if they dug up a bunch of substrate and threw it in there, or dug up some soil that had that in there, the trauma caused it, the stress caused it to have a stress response fruiting. And that's actually really common for mushrooms. Mushrooms seem to be pretty well geared, not all, but most seem to be pretty well geared for disturbance. And because they're recyclers, right? So they want to go where disturbance is, because disturbance is where stuff is usually dying and falling or breaking and, leaving nutrient sources behind for them. I shook them in 2 days and was wondering if that messed it up or that grains are too dry. It could be both. If the grains are too dry, then any other sort of trauma is going to have a greater impact than if they have a nice wet environment, nice moist environment. They don't want wet typically, but moist, like if it's too wet just makes stuff grow in slower. Unless it's contaminated, in which case it spreads contamination easier. But if it is like obviously if they can handle they can handle wet environments if it's perfectly sterile because we do it in liquid culture. But yeah, I wouldn't have shaken within 2 days. The my rule for shaking is that I want to see about a dime-sized growth before I'll even consider shaking. Because mushrooms, you know, especially when they're first germinating, they don't have a lot of fat reserve, we'll call it for shorthand, but they don't have a lot of nutrient and energy reserves. They don't have a lot of um, excess built up yet. And so when you shake and they have that trauma, they may not have enough to recover. So you definitely want to be careful with how quickly you are shaking that stuff up. Dime sized is usually the one that I just kind of look at. Spore and Sprout posted a cool video of how he's setting his LC inside syringes with a small amount of agar inside them. Thought that was interesting. Uses a lot less plates than agar. Some cons as well. LC inside syringes. So I saw that he posted something about that. I'm just not sure how that works. I've not watched the video yet. I'd love to watch it, but I only saw it right before I got on here, so I didn't have a chance. And I don't know if we could. I mean, I assume we can just go watch his video without a copyright strike or anything, and just see what we think about it. But I always want to be careful because I don't want to piss people off. Because I remember somebody asked me what I thought about Mike from Mushroom Mesa, and I was like, well, he's a bit bombastic, and that's not really my thing. But I didn't. But then I thought about that later, and I was like, that could give people the impression I don't like Mike. I love Mike. Mike seems awesome in a lot of ways. I just it's just not my style. And so I was like, oh man, I really hope I didn't leave that impression in the world, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I guess I got to be careful. Not that I've heard anything. I mean, I haven't even tried reaching back out to him yet since then. But but it would be interesting to do so. I just don't know. I don't know how is it done, nerd? Like, is it is he just sucking up a piece of agar? Because I don't really see how that would work. Is he putting agar inside a syringe and then putting it on its side, letting it cool, and then squirting a little bit of LC in there? Because if that's the case, that's more expensive than doing plates. I don't really know. How that works exactly. Screw it. Let's pull it up. I do have my issues with Spore and Sprout just because selling my strains and then way undercutting me. And I'm not really into that. But I've not talked to him about it either, so. Okay, we're gonna do it this way. 31 minutes of women furious with financially so. What the hell is that? Okay. All right, so is it? So it's showing up for you guys. Okay, cool, good. I'm gonna watch this for a second.
Testing every single mushroom liquid culture on an agar plate, so I designed this new method using a sterile syringe with agar in it. Normally, I'd use an entire agar plate just to test one liquid culture jar, but each of these syringes only uses about 1 milliliter of agar. That means the amount of agar you normally pour into
I can already tell you I don't like this method.
You can make around 20 to 25 of these syringes instead. To make the agar syringes, I only need a small batch, so I'll just mix together 2.3 grams of nutrient agar powder in 100 milliliters of hot distilled water.
And I'll tell you guys why I don't like it here in a second, but so
I poured the agar solution into a small jar and then poked holes in the lid and covered them with a couple layers of micropore tape.
Okay. Alrighty, I hate micropore too. I really am not a micropore tape person. I don't like it. I don't like the There's a lot of.
Then I just covered the lid with
my
some
least
aluminum
favorite
foil
thing
and placed
about
it inside the pressure cooker and then pressure sterilized it at 15 psi for about 30 minutes.
I do like his little effects he's got here on the side. That's pretty cool.
After sterilizing it, the clock starts ticking because it will start to solidify.
That right there is one of the
if
things
you
I don't
don't
like is
hurry up and
that you've
extract
got a
the
clock
agar
on it
into the
already.
syringes. So
But
I'm
look at
just
that. Look at each
unwrapping
one of
the
those
sterile
syringes.
and then I attach a sterile needle.
Okay,
And then I start
real quick.
extracting a little tiny.
Let's just look this up for a second. So if I go to Amazon and I go 10 mil syringes, right? For the Lure Lock, you can get 100, so was it like 19 cents a piece, right? Okay. And why are you doing that? No, I don't want to use your Amazon AI. I know how to shop on Amazon. Sterile Petri dishes. So let's find Cell Treat, because Cell Treat's usually the cheapest. Okay, so we have 100 pack, 200 pack, 200 pieces. There was a 500 pack I saw just a second ago. Thick plastic Petri dishes, lid 90 millimeter, 15 millimeter, deep clear, 3-vent Petri dish. That seems pretty expensive. Let me see. Let me find Cell Treat. $500 case. Okay, so for $99, right? So we go 99 divided by 500 is about 19 cents. So it's about the same, and you get way more surface area. Now I guess we do have to, because he's using a syringe cap, and that's going to add to the cost. But here's the major problem I have with that. Uh-oh, where's my StreamYard? There we go. My major problem that I have with this is just it's labor intensive. I can pour 100 plates in, I don't know, 20 minutes, but this, where we're going to have to suck it up. Oh, and he's doing it with a needle, too. I mean, that would keep it from making a mess on the end of the syringe, but now you've added the cost of a needle, but a whole nother thing to do. It's not that big of a deal, I guess, but it just... yeah, it's a waste of supplies. It's a waste of time, is what it looks like to me.
A bit of the agar
and time.
into the syringe.
We have to remember, guys, that our time, everything that we do in mushrooms is something that very few people do. Right? It's also it's something that very few people learn. And let's just be honest with ourselves. There's a certain subset of the population that just can't. Right? They're just never gonna get it and get good, clean work. And some people just don't get it, and that's okay. They've got their own skill sets. But you have to be really, 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 really diligent about cutting out any extra work. I would rather spend on supplies long before I would rather spend on time. I can't get my time back. My time is precious, right? And your time is precious. All of us, we get the one life. We don't want to be doing a bunch of extra stuff, you know. Even if it was more expensive to do plates, I would still do that just because they're more convenient.
Then I just cap each of the syringes off
But
with
I'm just going to watch it for a second.
Lure Lock cap.
Now, he could put it on his side, and he would get more surface area. That's another thing I don't like. I don't like how little surface area you've got here. How are you supposed to see an underlying bacterial infection through that anyways? I don't like that either.
Then
So I don't think this is a good method.
So they
So,
stay
like,
upright
he's having to watch
as
each,
the
he's
agar
having to do this with every
solidifies
single
as
one
a
of them.
platform on the plunger.
You're having to start and stop and
I'm
reset
only making a handful
every
of these
single
syringes for
syringe.
this experiment. As you can see, there's a bunch left over.
But yeah, I mean,
here,
I
so
would
could have
pull the
easily
plunger
made
back,
upwards of 100
lay it on its side,
agar
and get a
syringes.
thin film if I was going to do this, because if you did that, you would have a huge amount of surface area. You don't need it to be that thick, right? So you can do 1 mil, and then pull it up, and then pull it to 5 mils, cap it, lay it on its side, and it would give you a bed. Then you could pull up a little drop of liquid culture to it, and then you could do it that way. But if he did 100 plates and then just packed them in Ziploc bags, then they would stay good forever, and he would have saved a bunch of time.
I just attach a sterile needle and then suck out just the tiniest
I
bit
also,
of the
I'm going to tell you
mycelium
guys
in.
right now, I hate this micropore tape with liquid cultures. These little filters, I just don't like them. I don't really understand. They're not really that much cheaper. I mean, it's cheaper than a syringe filter, but it I don't know. Look how dirty it is. Liquid culture, you can't help but get liquid culture on that somewhat. The syringe filter's got that little nipple that at least helps keep you from splashing. You don't want to get your filters wet with mycelium
To
anyways.
the agar
The
syringe.
liquid culture. You don't want it to come in contact
Then I
with it.
just cap it off and then pull it down so that you can get a clear view of it, like near the middle of the syringe. And then I just let it incubate and see if any contamination grows or if just the mycelium
Well,
grows.
that's actually good because then you can get
And
air
I
into
also
it by
noticed that
pulling
the
it.
agar doesn't dry up as readily as it does on a petri dish, which is way more reliable. And it reminds me of like a culture slant for long-term storage, how the
Now
agar
that
lasts longer.
right there,
So
the
the
long-term
agar syringe,
storage aspect is something that I can get behind. This could be a really good way of making an LC to slant. I would still want to test it on plates first, but I mean, of course, then if you do it as a slant, how are you going to get it back out? I mean, you can push agar through, I know, especially if you make a softer agar, something with a gellum gum or like only 4 grams of agar per 500 milliliters of liquid. I don't know. I don't really like this. It seems fidgety. Like people like doing
experiment was a huge
fidgety
success, and I'm super
stuff
excited
more.
because it's way more efficient for my operation. And as you
And
can
it might
see
be more
here, the
efficient for his
syringe on the
operation.
left
I
has
don't see
beautiful,
how,
healthy white mycelium.
but it very well could be. I could totally see that. Um, the heck, it might be in bush. What, your liquid culture is failing because it's missing this. That looked like a big teaspoonful of, or a big spoonful of nutritional yeast. Ugh, he's got such a bigger channel than me, though. I am jealous. I'll admit to some jealousy here. Okay, stop screen share. Here we go. So yeah, that is interesting, but I'm not sure. Wonder if moisture content from MSS made it faster. From your multi-source spore syringe, yeah, it absolutely will. That's one of the nice things about liquid culture, especially like I tend to make my substrates a little dry, mortified, and then I dump a bunch of liquid culture. It gets you more inoculum, and then because your inoculant is your moisture content, then as your sawdust, grain, whatever is sucking up the moisture, it's actually pulling the mycelium to it into a nice little embrace, right? Where then it can leap off. I made a cremini mushroom soup and poured it on a stuffed portobello cap. Sprinkled some crispy onion. Oh, plum. Man, I'm hungry, man. Don't do that to me. I am literally here, sitting here with my stomach growling. And you're talking about, oh, actually, doctor's orders. My cholesterol it's a little on the high side. It's not high, but my triglycerides are the highest point, so I'm not supposed to back way off the carbs. But she's like, you own mushroom business, eat more mushrooms. She's like, you need to be eating. So I have doctor's orders now to eat mushrooms like 3 times a week, which I think is interesting. Oh yeah, Chilton and Stamens are dying. Oh man, dude, not only that, I heard they had a whole blow up on a panel in front of everyone. I have not watched it, I have not seen it, but I know people were there, and they're like, Chilton was absolutely freaking furious. I, I don't, I, I don't know. I've had my own issues with Stamets on some stuff. I like not when I say issues, like I just like I would love to meet the guy. I have a high amount of respect for him in a lot of ways. I don't like the science proves it, but we did the science and we don't have a third party doing it yet. And I have that said, maybe they did it right. They could have done it right, but the problem is that he's the one doing it and he's the one pushing it. So it's just one of those things that you can't take as easily. You have to in science you have to question, right? So, but I've definitely heard about this. I've heard about the Stamets and Chilton having almost knocked down dragouts about this in front of whole panels and stuff. I think at the Las Vegas convention was one. I don't remember now. Thanks, that gives me a lot to think about. You're very welcome, Corey. Just to remind me. Oh, okay, yeah, you were wanting they're talking about the mycelium and stuff. Gotcha. When you were talking about not liking to grow on corn, I remembered a study that compared fermented corn versus wood straw oats, and combos of those fermented corn did the best. Well, now it wasn't just fermented corn, right? It was corn cobs, if I remember, if you and I are thinking of the same thing. And corn cobs are a completely different thing than corn. Corn cobs have a lot more lignin in them and a lot less sugar. So I'm thinking that's the one you're thinking of there, and that would be correct. The fermented corn cobs do amazing. Corn cobs are one of the best growing materials out there, but they don't come in a pellet, which I'm a pellet man because my labor, right? Mike is bombastic, and I still watch his videos. Yeah, there you go, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to give people the impression I don't like Mike. I have a lot of respect for Mike. It's not my style. I am not a bombastic and loud person. My wife might disagree. You're very welcome, man. Absolutely. I'm glad I could help you. I'm glad I could answer at least. When injecting jars, this is by Master Spore, I always lay the jar on its side to inject so that the surface area is larger, then I roll the jar quite a bit. Is this for grain jars? If that's the case, then yeah, I do it usually up so because the liquid will fall down, and I just kind of do the needle like that around the jar. But if you're doing it by a roll, that also works because you're also using gravity to assist the fall of the liquid. That sounds good to me. He's sucking up hot agar, letting it cool, and sucking up a bit of LC into a syringe to QC. I just don't feel like it's enough surface area. I think you need to turn it on your side to really see. Having done literally thousands of plate tests, I was comfortable going down to the 60 millimeter plates, but I wouldn't be comfortable going much below that. Like a slant is not enough for me to see. I want plenty of surface area for the bacteria to grow. I want to be able to look up through the agar, like from below, so that I can see things growing underneath that. I just don't think it's enough. Sounds like an odd way to basically just make a liquid inoculant for the spore and sprouts thing. I took a plate of agar and blended it the other day in sterile water to make liquid inoculant. It says people do that for sure. One of the things that I started doing as a liquid inoculant is doing the needle or bullnose biopsy. Either one of those. Bullnose is the needle biopsy without the needle. You just use the agar or the syringe as a agar punch, and then but you would need something other than a self-healing injector port. You need like a cap with a lure lock that you can screw it on and then push that in. The needle biopsy, if you're using self-healing injector ports, works the best. And it gets you just a tiny little sliver of tissue, and it takes about 10 days longer for the LC to grow in, but it is one of the best ways to make your master, and then from there you can go LC to LC to LC a few times. Especially if you pull rapid backups from your master. It seems more problematic and a waste of syringes. So that's what I'm saying is like, so the syringes, you know, I think you're spending about 10 to 15 cents more than you need to right there. And we saw that you can get a box of cell treat plates, 500 of them for like 19 cents a plate. That's at retail. That's not even wholesale. So if you start buying them in by the case, you can buy them from the 500 case from Cell Treat. If you call them up, you can do wholesale pricing, and you can buy 3 or 4 cases, and then you can get it down. I think last time I bought from Cell Treat, it was $70 or $80 a case. You know what I'm saying? So it's at that point you're making the price go down even more considerably. If you're bagging these things up in Ziploc bags, then you've got a modular containment system that'll hold. I think we hold 15 plates. 15 of the 60 millimeter plates per sandwich bag, but the way Samantha arranges them, and they just sit out, and then if we see contamination, we can just throw the whole bag away, and you lose 15 plates, but it's better than losing a culture, or a sale, or having to give a refund, or something like that. So, or losing a bunch of grain, because then it gets more expensive. I'm not saying that his method doesn't work, it's just, I feel like it's also the time. Like, every single one of those movements, there's no efficiency of movement there, because you're having to reset on the syringe every time. You have to do it within a certain amount of time. It's not like where you can just pour, lift, set aside, pour, lift, do a whole stack of 10, do another stack of 10, another stack of 10. Samantha and we can hand pour about 100 plates in 30 minutes, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes. If we're machine pouring, I think Samantha did, including setup and tear down. Samantha in that same time frame did about 200 plates with a peristaltic pump pour. So, like we could, like you can just hammer out plates. Like it's super simple. You can do it really easy, and pouring plates. You may not be that fast in the beginning, but it teaches you a skill set that's going to be necessary for other things. So, when he's talking about wasting a plate, like the media that gets poured into the plate is almost nothing. The plate itself is about 18 to 19 cents, but your time, I mean, your time, you just can't get that time back. And let's just you should be tracking your time. Everything, if you're doing an operation to make money, or even you want to make money one day, time yourself doing tasks. Just set a timer, start doing the task, and then turn the timer off when you're done, and then calculate out what it would cost to replace you. Because you got to remember, lab work that we're doing, that's not $25 an hour. You're talking, I mean, I guess at some places, like if you're literally just doing the most basic of basic thing, you might be at a hospital pouring plates for 25 an hour. But if you're doing a bunch of other things, growing out specialty stuff, mixing up a whole bunch of different medias, doing any sort of research, you're talking about a much higher pay grade. And that, like, okay, if it takes you an extra hour every day to do a task, and you do that 5 days a week, that's 5 hours. And let's just say you're getting paid $40 an hour. You're having to pay someone $40 an hour to do it. You're talking $15 an hour more that you're losing. And 15 times 5. I'll have to 75. I knew that. I should have done that. I could have done that. But yeah, you're paying like an extra 75 a week. Just if that as an example. What's up, Hendrix? Keep Sonic Culture, y'all. Thank you very much, man. Glad you reminded me of that. Like, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when we're doing streams and you want free consultation services. That's what we're here for. Hendrix is my Hendrix is my hype man. Please, do you know how to cultivate Fulvirella volvacea, the patty straw mushroom? I know of how other people have done it. I've never done it myself. It likes heat, lots and lots and lots of heat. It's Trad Cotter's book, Mushroom Growing and Mycoremediation or something like that. In that, he talks about how he grew patty straw, and he said he tried a bunch of times, and he never could get them to grow. They would colonize just fine, but he could never get them to grow. And then, I think he said he threw a bunch, like in the heat, the hottest part of the year, like August in South Carolina, where it's already hot and muggy, he threw that stuff out into a compost pile, and then the heat from the compost pile plus the heat of the summer caused it to fruit all over his compost pile. And he had to get it that hot. It reminds me of black soldier fly larvae, where you have, in the black soldier fly larvae, they don't, like, July is when they really show up for me, so it's hot. July, August, sometimes parts of September, depending on if we have a hot September or if it's cooling down, because it doesn't usually get cool here till October. And then I'm just throwing, meat, milk, dairy, cheese, wetland scraps from the wetland plant operation we have out here, old, contaminated agar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, everything. The black soldier fly, it generates so much heat because it's such a hot compost pile, basically. I mean, I have it in tubs. And that is when I get all the black soldier fly larvae I could ever want. I get them and then I dry them, and yeah. I think that's how you got to treat the patty straw. It's got to be a hot season, and then whatever it's growing in has probably got to be generating some heat. And it sounds like it does okay with bacteria and a non-sterile substrate. So I think that's the way to do it. Now, again, I've not ever done it, so this is just me relaying to you how I've heard to do it. But I have never actually grown patty straw. I did Aloha Medicinals. I sent them in a strain of Ganoderma Martinique. I didn't know that's what it was. They DNA tested it, and I traded them strain for patty straw. that never grew. It never did anything for me. I was supposed to be able to go back and get that Ganoderma Martinique. I lost that in my library very early on because it was one of the first things I ever found, and I didn't know anything about preserving mushroom cultures back then. And in fact, it was myself and then my mentor, Hugh Brewer of Brewer's Mushrooms, that he's one of the original ones that found it. He brought it to me. We cloned it. It was like the slowest growing reishi mushroom I had ever grown. But interestingly enough, it came back 3 or 4 times as they couldn't figure out what it was. And then they finally ran it through a more obscure database and found out that it was Ganoderma Martinique, which only had been found in the island of Martinique. And the 4 samples that year that we found it, and cloned it, there were 4 samples sent in from around the Knoxville area. So it was really interesting. And that's the kind of biodiversity we get here with that stuff. But so I don't know if you can even get their patty straw is the reason I bring all of this up. Because last time I checked, they're not selling cultures anymore. They closed their gene bank down. They just keep stuff in the house. And they said that they're not going to honor, because it's under new ownership, they're not honoring the ability to go get your strains back. So I was told no, which sucks. I had done it directly with Doc Holliday, and we had like different texts and I think emails from my old email account that I don't know how to get back into anymore. So I guess part of it was that I couldn't prove it, but they had told me they weren't honoring that stuff anymore anyways because they were new owners. Not a fan of this method at all. Yeah, I'm not either. Mortified said me either, Chrissy. Dang, okay, well, I see this. Got to be even more strenuous and lots more potential to contaminate and can't see shit. That's kind of the can't see it is one of the other big ones for me. I don't get it either, Mortified. There's, it's easier to pour the plates. It's an interesting concept, but I do agree cons outweigh the pros in this technique. Now, I do think, guys, that there is something there. I do think that he's done something interesting that I haven't seen before. Pulling the agar up in there. I don't know what the use case is yet. I don't think that he found the use case. I think that he's got a technique, but we don't have a use case for it yet. And I think that one day there might be a use case for it. We'll see. It would be better. So if, I built an automated syringe puller, so I can pull whole jars of syringes in no time. And it does take a little bit more setup, and not much more setup, but it takes more planning because you have to make sure that you have the hoses for all the strains you're going to do, all the syringes set aside. But Samantha and I can pull hundreds of syringes really quickly that way, of one type. You have 1 or 2 types that you can't switch between varieties super easily. But now, if he was to do that with agar, and instead of pulling liquid culture, you were pulling agar through this system, and you could put 1 mil of agar per syringe. Now, all of a sudden, we could mass produce those things. I still don't know what the end use case is yet, but I do there's something tickling in the back of my mind that there's something interesting there, but definitely not for what he's doing it there. So. All right, guys, I'm just glad I found this channel. I'm glad you found this channel. What are you talking about? Real quick, guys, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. Take a pee break real quick. You got about 1 minute and 45 to be back. Imagine a world where the most unique, rare, and powerful mushroom strains are preserved, studied, and shared with growers like you. That's exactly what we're building with the Mycologium. A living archive of fungal biodiversity, sourced from the wild, expanded in the lab, and made available for researchers, growers, and curious minds alike. But here's the best part. You can be a part of it. If you're a bioprospector, a forager, or just someone who loves finding cool mushrooms in the wild, you can send in your samples. If you send me in a wild mushroom, and I can successfully clone it, I'll send you back a cleaned up culture of it. If you send me a culture that you've already cleaned up yourself, I'll send you one for our library. ready to grow, experiment with, or add to your collection. That's right. Culture for culture. You help expand the library, and you get something amazing in return. The goal? To preserve fungal diversity, to give people access to new genetics, and maybe, just maybe, to discover something truly groundbreaking. So if you've got an interesting mushroom, a rare find, or a strain that deserves a place in the archives, send it in. Let's build something incredible together. The Mycologium, preserving fungal biodiversity, one culture at a time. Want to learn more? Hit us up, shoot us a message, and let's keep spawning culture, y'all. Welcome back. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to make sure I have something set up before I go through and make the announcement. But make sure that I've got it real quick. I thought I would have a few seconds longer. So okay. PayPal. I think I got it. Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool. All right, cool. So I got that taken care of now, so we're good to keep going. I liked when Sportsprout blocked me on his channel after I said it's nice to do my laundry basket tech still being used after all these years. Guess wait, what? He did what? I didn't know that. Like, I liked when Sportsprout blocked me on his channel after I said it's nice to do my laundry basket tech still being used after. Oh, it's nice to see my laundry basket tech still being used after all these years. Guess he didn't like the truth. Were you the one that did the laundry basket tech? I was being nice. I was glad to see it, and he did it well. I don't know, man. I mean, again, I've got my own issues with him just because he's been reselling my strains, and he's been like, taking them like down to $7.50 a syringe, and it's like, okay, dude, you could just, talk to me maybe, and we could set up a commission or something for sales. Speaking of commissions and sales, we have our announcement today, and I'm going to share my screen for this real quick. So here we go. Check it out. We have an affiliate tab. You know what that means? That means that people can become affiliates now, and they can use their code. You can just go to Mossy Creek Mushrooms and use code whichever. You guys get to create your own codes. It will pay. You get a 15% commission. It gives them a 15% discount. Gives me a little bit of a hit, but it does allow you guys to, if you have any sort of following and want to get genetics in, or you want to be able to kind of offer a way to sell our genetics or whatever, and be able to get paid for it. We have that set up now, and it's through the website, and it's all automated. I don't have to do anything. So, and in fact, my first affiliate signed up today. It's Chrissy Stormborn, so she's an affiliate now, as of today. So maybe think about signing up for that, guys. If you talk to people, or if you've ever gotten someone to buy a strain from me, 15% of 30 is actually a decent one, and it's anything on my website. So whether that be, our nutritional powders, or our genetics, slants, cultures, that's the big thing, is we're moving. I want to be able to specialize. I think that we're now at a point, and I've said this about a year ago, I think, that we can really start seeing specialists form in the mushroom community. So I think that I think that we can really specialize into things that we're good at. I want to be able to fully devote myself to be able to release new strains for the hobbyist level and for the commercial levels. And the commercial levels, I've gotten the leasing and the royalty system figured out, but it took me a while to kind of figure out how I wanted to get the hobbyist thing going. And I think now, instead of me having to push sales through the hobbyist channels and that kind of thing, which takes me away from what I want to do, like I should be able to just focus entirely on creating new strains of mushrooms and fulfilling the orders. And instead, I find myself being torn between sales and this and website building and blah, 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 right? Specializing is what allows us to grow this ecosystem to a much bigger ecosystem and to where we can incorporate more people into it. We can get better genetics everywhere else. Yeah, I don't know. I really think that the mushroom market being able to specialize is going to pay just huge dividends for the community as we go on. And not necessarily the community of mushrooms. I just mean like the overall community will be able to offer better foods, better products, better, everything. Where is this panel video of Chilton Statements? I'd love to see it. I've never seen the video. I've just heard that it exists. And I think that it may not be published. I think someone that was there took a cell phone video of it and then has shared that privately amongst some of us. Not me, obviously, because like I said, I haven't seen it. But but I'm pretty sure that there's a secret phone video out there for it. It's it would be I would be very hey, if you guys know where that video is or find it, let me know. I would love to see it. And if we can watch it, I will watch it on here with you guys. Like we'll just share it with everybody if we can, so that's what I was saying, Steve. It's an interesting idea, just maybe a different application. Absolutely. It seems like you were already there. They sell corn cob pellets as corn feed at Tractor Supply, but it's a bit pricey. Interesting. I would be very interested in checking it out. I've not actually seen that. I wonder if it's not stocked here locally, or if I just have not paid attention. Horse feed, not corn feed. Did you say corn feed? As corn feed, you did. Okay. And I forgot to mention they used oyster mushrooms, which basically grow on anything. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, but corn cobs truly are for oyster mushrooms. They're like the perfect feed. I don't know about shiitake or anything like that. Shiitake's a little bit more, I'm not gonna say finicky. Finicky might be the right word, but I don't want to use it. Needle biopsy changed my whole LC game. Zero contamination. That as soon as I moved over to that, all of a sudden my contamination rates just plummeted down to nothing. It was one of the best things that I ever figured out. Now I didn't come up with a needle biopsy. Needle biopsies are a thing in the medical world. I had already read about the needle biopsy of whole mushrooms in radical mycology. I'm just the guy that figured out how to do it to agar and get it into liquid culture, and then I published that. It's a very small piece of the puzzle. I just took a technique from somewhere else and imported it to a new thing. That was it. I didn't come up with that or anything. But it did change my operation of my game. My ally was actually the whole mycelial mass blended into a sterile pint jar, 180 milliliters of water with an oyster blender blade on it, then sucked up into 3 60 milliliter syringes. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Were you able to autoclave the oyster blade or blender blade, or did you have to like do something like star sand or something like that? From what I read on Streamery, they should be fully colonized in 1 week. That should colonize very quickly. That's a lot of inoculum. Agar is inoculum in 3 dimensions as well. Unless you're on the surface, in which case it just goes down. But yeah, it's that's a lot. There is mycelium all through the agar. So when you blend that up, you've got a lot. Now the only thing I'll be very interested to see, because blending, while an interesting and good technique for taking that and making it into a bunch of inoculation points, is you're slicing open cell walls, and the DNA can be changed somewhat. So you might get some genetic drift by doing that method. But you're getting that by tearing mycelium too. So you guys should set up a bagging contest with other influencers in the fungal world. I bet Sam would smoke everyone. Used to, I would say for sure. Nowadays, Samantha and she probably could still give people a run for their money, but we're not doing hundreds of bags a week anymore like we were. You know, we're doing like 15 to 25 bags a week that we are then just putting the new strains or the old strains for spores for breeding. So we've cut way back, and so I would say she probably doesn't feel comfortable with competing anymore. But Samantha in her prime would smoke anybody at bag folding, for sure. She is the fastest I have ever seen, ever. Speaking of, she and Leanne and Charles are setting up a whole. They're just having a whole conversation. I'm about to turn my phone off. I wonder if it's working so well since I cooked the bags for 2 days to pasteurize them and the corn dissolved into the wood. I mean, you definitely rendered it down. It sounds like you made it digestible just by heat treating it like that. That said, if you're pasteurizing a lot, you know, I would do 120 blocks. Through the winter time, I would cook, or sorry, through the summertime, I would typically cook for 36 to 48 hours. In the summertime, when blocks are already warm and I'm not fighting. Sorry, the summertime I would cook for about 36 to 48 hours because of the excess bio load in the air and all the extra mold and everything else, bacteria. The wintertime, I was able to cut that down to like 24 hours. I am just not a fan of patty straw mushrooms. I don't hate them. I just don't care. I've never eaten them. I've always wanted to eat them. They seem delicious to me. They're making burger meat out of black soldier flies. I'll pass. I don't have a, you know, I say but I don't really have a problem with eating black soldier flies, depending on what they're grown on. I'll be honest, I don't want ones that are raised on like what I'm raising them on. I don't mind feeding that to the fish, and then eating the fish. And to me, that's the better way because I like fish meat. I have eaten bugs. I've eaten grasshoppers. I don't mind eating grasshoppers, but black soldier fly larvae are, I mean, they're miracle. But it reminds me of the slig from Dune. Is it God Emperor? I think God Emperor of Dune, where the Tleilaxu make a what they call the slig, which is like a slug and a pig, like a slug genetically engineered with pig DNA, or a pig genetically engineered with slug DNA, and they won't eat it themselves, but you can basically feed it garbage, and it makes the most delicious tasting meat. And they created these creatures, and then they kind of think it's funny to have other races eat this thing that just eats garbage, but they won't touch it themselves. So, you know, kind of reminds me of that. Makes me wonder how many of the people that are making black soldier fly burgers are actually eating them. It seems like just about anything grows better or at all once you throw in the compost. Yeah, you're not kidding, man. Sometimes that's one of the most frustrating things, is how you can like feel like you're doing everything perfect and it won't grow for you at all, and then you throw it away and you give up on it, and then bam, it flourishes, right? Let that be a lesson to you. Found some lion's mane and oyster mushrooms in my woods near Lake George, New York. Pretty cool. Man, I hope you cloned them, and if you did, I hope that you're sending them to the Mycologium, because that would be super cool. I love getting my New York genetics. I have a maitake from New York that I am about to grow out. Can you talk about out of the box selling strategies in a very small town, less than 5,000 population? That it might be a little bit harder. Retail is going to be easier because you can get to the end user better. If you can, do you have a metro near you, like within an hour or so? Because it's definitely worth it. If you can drive an hour to a metro, it is definitely worth it. In your hometown, what I would suggest, Joe, in that case is getting it out in front of people in retail spaces as best as possible. A farm stand or a farmer's market, a farm stand and a farmer's market, that kind of thing. Sometimes free samples because small towns are not always keen on trying new foods because they don't necessarily have a super great food scene. Some places do, some places don't. Um, yeah, it's definitely a little bit harder to sell when it's that tiny. Give me 1 second. So when I did restaurants, I always did them with I'd like to do a full 10-pound box, a sample box to the restaurants. That's probably not going to be your move. You're probably going to want, if you're really stuck in the small town side of things, where you've got that few of people, you're really going to want to cut the middleman out so that you can collect, um, you know, every bit of that you can. I don't know what kind of restaurant scene you've got in a town of less than 5,000 people. I mean, my town is considered a small town, and we're like 30,000, so 5,000 is pretty tiny. I don't really have a lot of experience having to um, sell it like that. So I don't know. Does anybody else have any experience with selling in a small town? Because I mean, Facebook Marketplace has been pretty good to me when I was wanting to sell retail, and I would have people stop here at the shop. Um, Again, yeah, Joe, the biggest thing, like, okay, here's one way I would consider it. If I'm really stuck at the less than 5,000 population, I would do a market garden and I would do mushrooms. And I would just have mushrooms help complete the loop in my market garden because my spent substrate would make my market garden more effective. And then I would grow more vegetables and sell those. And then I would have mushrooms as an add on that I can put on there because mushrooms will be a very profitable add on. But it's probably going to be easier, especially if you can do like a CSA for people. You've got veggies that you can do, and you can put mushrooms to it. That's the biggest thing I can think of. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be, anything you can do to get out to people. So if you've got a retail space, a farm stand, a farmer's market, that's the only things I can really suggest. Because you're going to get closer to $15, $20 a pound rather than $8 a pound that you would get just trying to sell whole boxes. So I don't know. That's about the best I can think of there, just on the fly. Yes, so excited to be an affiliate. I am too, Chrissy. I'm excited to have you. Thank you very like you are the first, but you're not the last. I can tell you that because we've already had 2 people sign up before the live stream, which is kind of cool. I'm excited about it. We'll see how it goes. I really want to see so Chrissy, I hadn't really talked to you about this, though. I hope that you got the new. I after you signed up, I finished the welcome email and got that sent out to you. And I, in that, talk a little bit about how I actually want to use some of my affiliates as strain testers, or as a strain release kind of thing. So it's like, hey, I got this thing I think is interesting. I'm going to send it to you. I've already got it in liquid culture. You're going to grow it out. Whenever you're growing out, feel free to talk about it once you have it grown out. And then, I'll have it on the page and people can go buy it. Due to you releasing it and using your code associated with it, you'll be able to help, get in on the releases of these things. So, on Shroomery, Joe Sex came up with the needle biopsy to LC 10 years ago. Yeah, I'm sure that he probably had a convergent evolution kind of thing there where we both came up with it at different times. I'm not entirely sure when I came up with mine. I mean, it has been years and years and years at this point. So, but yeah, I'd never seen his until afterwards. Somebody had told me that about that afterwards, and I'm not entirely sure. I don't think that his was for a different reason than mine was. So it was a slightly different use case, though it was. I'm not even sure if it was LC when he was doing it. And if I remember correctly, he was either doing it from multi-spore syringes at first to agar and then a punch, or he was doing it PF Tech punch and then to it. I can't remember, but I think he and I came up with it at about the same time. And I published it on YouTube, and he published it. I mean, I published it years later on YouTube, but I taught it to my mentorships for years, for a while. Yeah, Oster blade on the mason jar already. That's what I was thinking, that they fit on there, and then I've heard that they're not supposed to autoclave, but they will autoclave. I've not tried the Oster blades though. And then sterilize. Okay, so yeah, you're sterilizing it. That sounds good. I would love to try that. I'm gonna have to get the Oster blades that fit the jars. Is it just narrow mouth, or do they have them that'll fit wide mouth? Do you have any experience growing mycelium in mats like they do for bacon or textiles? Any suggestions down on how to do it on a small scale? So typically, Monsteros, what I've seen them do is grow it in a high humidity environment in pans, so that you could basically, you want to encourage the growth of aerial mycelium. And then my understanding for bacon and even some of the textiles, though textiles, they have a slightly different process, but for the bacon, they press it. So they'll take it and then they press and cut, because it's basically a mycelial mat at that point. I've not had any experience doing it. I've not tried it. The closest I've ever come is that I saw Sydney over Singleton created a morel tempeh. So he was taking soybeans, wetting them, sterilizing them, forming them into a cake basically, and then inoculating it with morel mycelium. He would then grow it through, and then he would slice it thinly and cook it up. And it was a morel tempeh. That is really intriguing, so I did the same thing, but with oyster mushrooms. I don't suggest that, because it smelled like burnt hair cooking it. So there's probably other ways to cook it where you won't burn it. But that's the closest I've come to even attempting something like that. Unless you're counting koji. I've koji'd a lot of rice, I've koji'd meat, I've koji'd fruits, I've koji'd beets, that kind of stuff. I've done that kind of food processing, but never trying to take mycelium. I'll be honest, I've tried mushroom meats, and I don't like them. I do not like the fake mushroom meats at all. Farmers market? Farmers market. Oh, for the guy wanting to know how to sell. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the best bet is farmers market to get your name out there, Facebook Marketplace, and heck, I mean, in rural communities, I think Craigslist is still a fairly big thing. So you can use Craigslist as well to get the word out there. Advertise, advertise, advertise. Get a mailing list of people, every person that's ever bought from you, see if you can get them to sign up for a mailing list. Email them every time you've got mushrooms. Not 20 times a day, but once a week or so. This is what's coming up. Sign up for affiliate, then order with your own code. Absolutely. You can totally do that. It'll save you a little bit. You get paid back for it. I've totally done that before. I've got affiliations, and I use my code when I go through that as well. I mean, it's a discount. And actually, technically, I want to let you guys know this, that if you sign up as an affiliate, there's a certain place where eventually you can work your way up to a personal code that gets you a steeper discount on our website. It wouldn't work for your audience necessarily, but you, as the person showcasing stuff, can work your way into more bigger and better discounts. The Oster blade fits regular mouth jars. I want something that'll fit a wide mouth. I guess I can use regular if I need to, but I just want something that fits a wide mouth jar. That's all I ever use is wide mouth jars. That's the only things I can clean. I can't get my hand in a narrow mouth jar. In a small town, if there are not any CSAs, markets, stores that sell local produce, you should start one. Maybe start with local service delivery or pickup, could do subscription or just take orders. That's a great idea. I agree with Wiley on this one. Sometimes you got to build it. I had to when I first started mushrooms. There was very few people that had ever really grown mushrooms in this area or really provided well. Consistency was a big thing. Always being the guy that always had mushrooms meant that when people called me, I had something typically. Or, people were always coming to me and I was starting to sell out at that point. And of course, at that point, you start making the good money. You're like, okay, I'm going to keep this going. But I mean, the truth is, just being in a town of less than 5,000 people, you're going to have suppressed economic opportunities. It's just going to be harder, which is nice that you got the internet because you can do it for a little while and then maybe even work yourself into some sort of other way to of doing things. So, you know, if you can become an influencer, so you can grow stuff, kind of like what people do online here, where we're talking about, you can get affiliation programs like what we've been talking about here, or you can start a wholesale business where you buy in from certain places, store it in your garage. You buy a case of 500 plates, and you break that down into stacks of 20, and you sell those to people who don't want to buy 500 plates. You know, that kind of thing. So there are ways of engaging into the mushroom industry without having to sell mushrooms and only mushrooms. So that's one of the things is that, you know, selling mushrooms is not the only way to be involved in mushrooms. So Joe could try selling lions online. Absolutely, that is absolutely a thing. Um, just growing the mushrooms, drying them. Hugh Brewer, the guy I was telling you about, he used to sell reishi. Now this was back when reishi was selling for like $96 a pound dried. But he would grow the antlers out, and he would grow the conchs out, and then he would come buy blank fruiting blocks from me, take them home, inoculate them with his reishi spawn. He would grow out 2 or 3 batches of reishi a year, and then he would dry them, cut them with a bandsaw, and pre-pack them into 1 ounce, 4 ounce, you know, half pound, full pound containers. Put them in those little Sterilite drawer bins. He said he'd just sit there and work and watch TV, you know, whatever. And he'd sell it on his website. And he would, you know, get an order. He'd go out there, pull his pre-packed stuff, slip it in, print off the thing, and ship it. And that's how he would do it. And for the longest time, that's, I guess, how he made his nut, you know, was just selling dried mushrooms that way. But you could do lion's mane. You can do reishi. You don't even have to have a grow room to do those because you can grow those in vitro, in bag. So, blender mix slurry for the win. There you go. The slurries, I'm a huge slurry man, just in general. I tend to grow my mycelium out thick enough that it is a slurry, like in liquid culture, so I don't have to worry about blending stuff up, I guess. Because my LCs are thick by the time we've grown them out. But that's the level of nutrition and stuff that we put into them. We go with a high nutrient liquid culture premix that we make. It's the same one that we sell, the Dr. Slurians. That's what we use in-house. Dehydrated mushrooms are more popular in Asia than here. That's true, but that's changing. And there are more people doing extracts now. They usually buy dried. And then there are more people doing at-home cooking of medicinal mushrooms. There's a few dozen ways, you know, I think to engage there. Cordyceps is a great one. Joe, if you I lost your comment. Jensen. There we go. So, Joe, for less than 5,000 population, you might consider cordyceps. Cordyceps is something that can be grown in a small space. It's a high-value mushroom. You can grow it in the bag, so while you do need cooling conditions and light control, you don't have to have humidifiers and all that kind of stuff. So that might be a really good way to go, would be cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi. And I will tell you right now that if you can learn to grow good turkey tail, I've talked to so many extract suppliers who are looking for good sources of turkey tail. They want clean, dried, grow room, you know, if it possible, in vitro grown turkey tails. Most people find that in grow rooms that turkey tail tends to mold on the fruit because it's a fast colonizer but slow fruiter. And then people who tend to get it from the wild, you have a hard time finding it when it's prime. So extract guys they're out there for turkey tail. Turkey tail's got polysaccharide K in it, which is an amazing molecule. Look it up. I think that's a great idea. I'd love to test strains. I thought you might. Chrissy, I really thought you might. That thought had occurred to me. I like it. I'm glad. I'm organizing direct sales with delivery, and interest is high. So I have heard of a few people moving to a delivery model, and that seems to be working. Most customers are within a few miles. Also, will sell at local farm store and farmers market. Every situation is different, though, and that is the thing. So we got to, you know, when I put stuff out there, I don't expect anybody to take it as gospel. This is the way to sell whatever. I'm just giving examples of how I've done it to give you ideas on how you can do it. So Wiley, I'm glad to see you taking the tack that you're taking. Uh, and I just want to encourage everyone who's watching to be honest with yourself about your situation. Look at your strengths. Look at it from a first principles way of thinking. First principles means I'm not going to take any assumptions. I'm going to take all assumptions off the table. I'm going to look at what is really there. What do I have? What am I trying to achieve? What do I need to do with what I have to get where I'm trying to achieve? And if it's not possible, are there any other goals that I could set that might be more attainable, but still, you know, give me the rewards or 80% of the rewards that I'm wanting to do? So just be creative with what you're doing. Don't just go into this oh, there's already a mushroom guy in my hometown and I don't want to, you know, I can't sell because he's selling. No, you can absolutely sell. You might sell a different mushroom, or you might move up the food chain, or you might sell online, or you might engage and learn that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be an agri journalist. You know, I'm going to be one of these people that's like going and I'm touring farms all the time. I might travel and tour farms. Like, you can dream a life, and the nice thing about where most of us live is that you can dream a life and you can, you know, have that target and acquire that target. Like, you can absolutely get there, but it might be creative methods that get you there, right? It may not be you taking a template that someone's already built. It may be you taking that and achieving that success. It may be you taking that template and variating upon it and creating something new for yourself. So, you know, don't get discouraged if things are not exactly how you were hoping they were. You might be able to like do a direct sale delivery model and have people pay a surcharge or a road charge or something like that, or maybe you just build that into the price of your mushrooms, and you just go, I'm delivering within a certain range, and then you know, you put it on Facebook, you have your own Instagram where you're putting stuff out there, you have a mailing list, maybe Craigslist, you're putting signs up at your local farmers co-ops. You know, most farmers co-ops or tractor supplies have a board, put a flyer up there, you know, mushrooms will deliver, you know, that whole thing. So you know, there are people literally growing trichoderma aggressivum, one of the major contaminants that we have in mushroom culture. There are literally people who were like growing mushrooms, got trichoderma, found out that you could use it as a soil microbe, a soil treatment, and they started growing that and making a soil treatment out of that. You have me. For the aquaculture trade, we're making a feedstock for filter feeders, literally using Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is it's yeast, and that's one of our major contaminants in liquid culture. But I now pre-package a feed that is part yeast and part nutrient mix that we use to feed filter feeders. So you can get really creative with this stuff. Just engage with it, and then there's a great book I would recommend anyone reading called Smarter, Better, Faster. Charles Duhigg, I think, wrote it. And one of the things he talks about in there is being an innovation broker, right? And that's one of the 5 things that really lead, like one of the 5 things you can do with your life. Like you have probabilistic thinking, you have being an innovation broker. And that just means that an innovation broker is someone who learns a little bit about a lot of things, and then they are able to go, oh, you in this industry, you know what you could really benefit from? You could benefit from this thing over here. This thing I learned from this industry would be a perfect tool set, or if we variate it slightly, it'll be perfect over here. And so that makes you seem like a creative powerhouse when you're an innovation broker, and you don't even actually have to be all that creative. I'm an innovation broker. I'm not a creative person. Yeah, right, baby? You think I'm very creative? Yeah, see, that's the thing. She thinks I'm creative. You see how I've tricked her? By being an innovation broker. I'm just curious, not creative. Do what? What point did I use you as an example to prove? That I am an innovation broker and not creative. Basically. Hey, what's your process with the All-American sterilizers and opening the valve after cooling? It creates a vacuum. I'm always worried about contaminating things. I just open it. You want to make sure that everything that you're cooking inside. So, will you grab me a flask and a piece of aluminum foil? Nothing in it. Yeah. I'll show you kind of like how I cook agar. Just a normal one. What we would normally use to make agar in. No, not the giant one. That is not the normal one. It's the giant one. I like your name, by the way, Thylacine. You look like Clippy. I've got to go on here, Clippy. Are you Clippy? That's tiny. Why? Bring me the right thing. It's nice to know that she thinks the tiny thing is the right thing, though. Where did your mind go? Nowhere, huh? Uh, yes, can I help you with anything? I said he looks like, I said it's Clippy. But I was asking if he was Clippy, so he said, yes, can I help you with anything? You know what Clippy always says? All right, so here's the flask, right? And you're like, oh, I've got agar in here. It's going to cook. I don't want it to contaminate. You just take aluminum foil, and I place it directly on the jar, or not the jar, the flask. I can't, yeah, I was going to say, okay, hold on. Here you go. You can just stare at my belly for a second. All right, so we're going to flatten it, because what we're wanting to do is try to create a flat surface as much as possible right here. And then I take the aluminum foil, this square, and I'll grab it, and then I'll twist it, okay? Now, after I have twisted this, I'll just kind of run it through. But you see how that, when I pull these out of the All-American, this will be sunken down because it's pulling a vacuum. Do what? Like a Snapple cap, Samantha said. So right there, you see how it's divoted in? That's what it'll look like after it pulls a vacuum. It'll be tighter, though. You won't have all of this, like, flex in it because it'll have evenly pulled down. Now, what you're trying to do is make sure that you get it as flat as possible. You can see I've got some creasing here, a little bit on the sides. Now, that creasing is not necessarily a problem because what you're trying to do is create a seal in the aggregate, okay? And what I just mean by the aggregate is that you're just trying to create a seal overall. So this, see, it doesn't really move. It's kind of clipped into the lip of the flask here, the drip loop. That's there. And that's all you really need. I cook, gosh, I did 3 liters of plant agar a couple nights ago. Samantha did, I think, 3 liters of our high nutrient mix, the Spore Kindler formula. So you can tell this is the jar I use because I never clean this stuff off, and Samantha always cleans it off. But yeah, that's how I do that. Now, if you're talking like anything beyond a flask, so I guess it kind of depends what you're doing. Like I wouldn't just do open agar plates in your All-American without them being in something like a bag or something. But we pour agar, we get the sterile plates and then just pour them in front of the hood. And that's the best way I would do. Now for the jars, you typically have a filter of some type on there so that they can relieve pressure back and forth, so that air can pass through the filter without contaminating stuff. So it kind of just depends on what you're talking about. But the flask is what most people seem to be worried about. And that's just how I do it, is with that. Hey, Mossy, shout out from Portugal. Well, hola. I've been playing with the idea of starting a mushroom business here. If you started from scratch, what would you do in the first year? Just grow mushrooms. I'd probably just grow oysters the first year. I would try to work my way up to 100 pounds a week consistently. and I would look at what kind of assets I had in place. And like if you're in Europe, you might have better access to ready to fruit blocks than we have. So that might be a nothing hurdle for you, you know. But I would first start off like 10 pounds a week. You know, can I do 10 pounds a week? Can I do 5 bags that produce 2 pounds? Can I be consistent? Get it up to 20, and then 30, then 40. You know, get it up to 100. And once I'm producing that consistently, then I can work my way up even higher than that. I would try to avoid any strong lab work in the beginning, like I wouldn't try to learn every skill you're gonna need to do the process from beginning to finish right away. I would start with the growing the mushrooms, and then I would add a skill every so often. Every time I'm starting to feel comfortable, I would add a new skill to the workflow. And then I would just dip my toes in with that skill and just make it a part of my weekly thing, and just be really disciplined about bringing it in. Either that, or if you can and you have access to it, take a consultation. I know people, like, you don't have to consult with me. I do consult with people in Europe and stuff, but like, there's actually, I've got one in Portugal. Though he is an American expat and is way out in the middle of nowhere. And he's got a lot of other stuff going on than just the mushroom farm. Like, he just does a small amount of mushrooms alongside a bunch of other things. But if you can consult or learn, like, if you can afford a consult, I would do so. It cuts years off. Find someone, like that whole thing about you'll know the tree by the fruits of its labor. Go through and find a farm that just seems to be doing a consistent good job, and see if you can hire them for a consultation, if you can work for them, if you can get access to that somehow. If you can work for them, it's nice, because then you can learn on someone else's dime, right? Now, you're providing value to them, but then they're providing you the ability to get close. That right there, yeah, you may be picking mushrooms to begin with, but that gets you around people that you can then start talking to. The guy who does the production, the guy that's in charge of sterilization, the guy that's in whatever. You can be reading books while you're getting hands-on experience. That kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing I would suggest. And try not to shortcut stuff. Like, learn good technique over any technology. Technology is great. I love technology. I'm not anti-technology. I'm not anti-anything, really, but I am very strongly a believer that a human, a person, should invest in themselves. And the best way you can do that is to collect skills. Over time, if you are disciplined and you collect all these skills, then things can just naturally happen without you having to push the Sisyphean ball, rock up a hill just to have it fall back down on you over and over again. That said, if you can't afford it, then bootstrap it and be willing to fail, and look at the failures not as failures. Never as, like, I didn't fail because I'm bad or worthless. I failed because I'm learning, and learning is cheaper than paying. That kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff I would recommend and suggest. But I always recommend people start with growing mushrooms first, then working their way back into lab work. Work your way through every part of the process backwards. Mushrooms generate income. Mushrooms generate food. Mushrooms generate delight. There's all of these things. You get that end result. You get your early successes, your early victories. Those fuel the emotional, energy, basically, that you're going to need to invest in more and more skills as you go on. And I'm not saying that you can't start from the hardest and work your way forward, and it is rewarding to do so. But I have found that when I teach people, I have way more people succeed by teaching going backwards than I do forwards. So it's just food for thought. Speaking of slurries, I've often thought about putting a little bit of agar in the slurry. Don't know if it would be beneficial or not. So there are people who do this. Foxy Sheila of Experimyco, he experimented with gelatin in his liquid culture. And he had this, I still don't know what the use case for this is yet, but I have been kind of slightly obsessed with it ever since I saw it. and he showed it to me. He and I game together pretty regularly. So interestingly enough, he had this gelatin liquid culture slurry, whatever you want to call it, because it wasn't any of those things except gelatin. But uh, he had enough gelatin in there that if it got up to a warm room temperature, it would be liquid. But if you were growing it, in air conditioning or in the fridge or whatever, it would turn solid. So what was interesting is that you could legitimately have a mycelial network that in some cases would be liquid and you could stir it, right? And then in other cases you could have it set up and be a solid. And because it's gelatin, that's actually a food source. It's an energy source for the mushrooms. I can break that down. So I don't know what it is. It was fascinating to me. I have been stuck on this ever since. Like, what could this be used for? Shipping? I don't really know, right? Like, it's a really interesting idea of this culture that could be formatted to a liquid or a solid based on, you know, fairly comfortable temperatures for the mycelium. It doesn't have to heat up to melt at temperatures that would kill the mic. So, I don't know. I don't know either. I do like slurries though. It Slurries I think are going to be the future in a big way, liquids and slurries, because you can pump a slurry through a facility a lot easier than you can move, large amounts of solid substrate and mass. It's a lot more efficient. I worked at a toothpaste factory for a couple of years, and they sterilely pump toothpaste, and they have to test it for bacteria and stuff in the labs, but they pump it through the facility down all the way to the machines that pack it into toothpaste tubes. I worked at a Colgate facility here in Morristown, and they have a lab. They test everything. They have to be really careful about powders and liquids and everything. And I think when you look at it, that is really like in China and a lot of other places, they do a lot more liquid. They do the conical liquid fermentation tanks. So I just think that we're going to see that more and more. Liquid is going to be the future for sure. Oh crap! I lost what tab you guys are on. Okay, there we go. I'm going to go grow mushrooms. I'm going to grow mushrooms as an add-on for my farm market booth, planning to grow outdoors at first. I think that's a great idea. So something that Ben and I have been talking about for a long time is that may also be the way of the future in a lot of ways. I mean, it's nice to have like when you go large scale, it's good to get the efficiencies of scale, of specializing in mushrooms or one type of produce or whatever. But I think that the healthier thing for the economy and the world is to have farms that buy in ready to fruit blocks and add those, or they buy in spawn and make ready to fruit blocks, make their own fruiting blocks on site. And you can get an efficiency of scale by having a centralized block or spawn manufacturer that then services all these farms that already sell produce, and they can just add mushrooms. And what's really nice is there's enough mushroom types that I could order shiitake ready to fruit, or I could I could grow portobellos, or I can grow oysters, or I can grow lion's mane, or I can grow black poplars. Black poplars are one of the most underrated edible gourmet mushroom that I can think of in the American market. They would fit the American palate, so also known as piapinos, for those of you who know it by the Italian name. Like it's incredible. Now, if you're doing outdoor grow, man, oyster logs are easy, but blocks are easy. Shiitake logs are easy. Like maitake, you can do a wide range. Enoki does not do well on the logs, and in the wild format, it has a poisonous look-alike. So I would just probably stay away from enoki outdoors. But enoki also doesn't need a grow room; it just needs a cold space with some air exchange in it. Not a lot of air exchange, because you actually for the best enoki, you want higher levels of CO2 unless you're doing a wild form, a beefier form. So yeah, it's like outdoors is a great way to go, and then having as an add-on because the substrate feeds your garden. Like your waste product from your mushroom farm makes your other farm better. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. I grow track like a champ. Yeah, man, I feel you. Well, apparently people have grown it well enough. I've had two different trike bombs sent to my lab here. People think that I open mail right here in the laboratory or something. I don't know. But yeah, I've had two different trike bombs sent, which I found out a couple, like a year ago or so, that actually is a form of bioterrorism. So I should have reported it. I didn't report it because I was just like, haha, idiots. Thinking they're going to ruin my op this way. Yes, yeah. I always think of Dexter's Laboratory when I see a flask. I think of Dexter's Laboratory just every day. That cartoon really stuck with me as a kid. No, I feel you. Sometimes I feel like a mad scientist, and then sometimes I feel like a mad druid, and then sometimes I feel like some sort of weird mix between the two, and then sometimes I just feel like a redneck or a geek. I don't even know. I don't even know what I am, guys. I don't really fit in anything. Which, welcome to being human, right? Thylacine, seriously, thank you for such a detailed response, Mossy. You're very welcome. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for you guys. I definitely want you guys just, throwing a ton of questions out. Overwhelm me with questions if you can. You can't, but overwhelm me. What about a wine bottle with a cork instead of a flask? I don't see why that wouldn't work as long as the cork doesn't delaminate or anything. The only thing I could think of is during the pressure building phase, the cork might pop out, unless you've got some way of holding it on. Now, we'll say one of the nice things about the flask, or the Erlenmeyer flask, instead of a wine bottle with a cork in it, is that if I want the cork out, I've got to find some way to get the cork out, either twisting in and pulling it, or if it's just sitting there and it's got one of the handles on it, I got to be able to off, which makes me put my fingers right around the opening. Not necessarily a problem if you're very, very careful. But with this, I can just grab the aluminum foil, and then I just kind of peel. And then when I peel it off, I can just peel back, right? Now, I can actually lay that on my desk or, in front of the flow hood. If I need anything or I need to, put a tool in a sterile container, I've got that little sterilized container sitting there, and then I just pour this out without having to touch. But I will also say I don't know pouring from a wine bottle feels for agar. But it's kind of nice, like you can have a hot pad right here, and then this drip loop makes it really easy to pour agar without making a mess. Like people that pour from jars or media bottles don't necessarily have that advantage. Not that it's necessarily a problem. Some people get skilled with that. But some people do pitchers. I'm not a pitcher fan. I like things that have a narrower opening to help reduce contamination, risk, etc. Not that pitchers can't work, because I know people that use pitchers. It's just not my way. Never mind, a corked wine bottle in a pressure cooker is a bad idea. Yeah, okay, you and I came to the same conclusion. I should have just read a little bit further. You make a really good point. I make a lot of really good points. I don't know. I don't actually know what point you're talking about either. Hello from Canada. Well, hello, Shelly from Canada. Hello from East Tennessee. I need to take the cap off that to drink it. I tried to drink it with the cap on. I thought I already took it off. How do you chase your second flush? Do you tape the cut and flip the bag, then open another window, or just let it grow in the same spot? Just let it grow in the same spot. Here's what I will tell you that probably most people that are watching this already know about me. If it comes between the choice of doing work or doing something and doing nothing, do nothing. So, and what I mean by that is not be lazy, but she's, oh my gosh. What I mean by that is a good way to look at it is there's a great book called The Lean Farm. And in that he talks about in the lean process, you try to cut out all extra work, because unless it adds directly to the value of the end product, right? So unless it somehow increases the value of the end product, you just don't do it. You don't do it. You try to cut it out. A lot of people will, I've never had a problem. I just let it go, and mushrooms come from the same hole, right? Like I just pull the flush, and it goes. You get a lot of people that do a lot of extra steps. I don't. I've never seen the benefit. I've tried their ways. It just feels like more work, and it doesn't get me any more mushrooms, and it doesn't get me better mushrooms. Uh, I know people who trim the caps and just sell only the caps, and they don't trim the stems. And when I look at that, they might be getting an extra dollar per pound. So that does add to the value of what they're doing. But when you count the labor involved in that, it's a wash at best. And I don't think that that's a good way to go. I think it's better to either A, work on, like, get new strains like our King Blue or our Moon Pearl that we've been working on, which are, the same flesh all from beginning to end, basically. Or you let the chefs develop ways of using that extra stem material and everything else in that waste. Um, but yeah, as far as like answering your question, specifically, I do nothing. I just pull it, and then when we pull our first flush, we make sure to go through and clean all the little extra bits of mushroom that were stayed attached to the block, because they can sicken the like if a new flush starts, like a second flush, then you got little bits of mushrooms there that are from the first flush. They can start to rot and spoil, and it'll spoil the rest of them. So if you just take your hand and go like clean, of course, like go with a glove that alcoholed, you can go through and clean your blocks off. You can just literally sit there and rub the those little pieces of mushroom tissue off, and then it'll just reset the block, and it goes from there. There are certain strains I have found of like oysters in particular, which will really adhere to the block. So when you pull, they'll actually create like a cavity in the block, and in that, you don't really have to worry about it because they'll just fruit from that same cavity. So, yeah, I don't tape, I don't move, I don't do extra work because that just adds more work for the same amount of money. And while most of us are probably growing mushrooms because we're interested or in love with mushrooms, um, it has to be a sustainable thing for us to do. So if you're doing it for money or enjoyment, you want to be able to spend time with your family, and you need to cut out as much of the extra work as possible. Because trust me, there's enough there without us creating extra. Be nice to own a cave to grow mushrooms in. Man, it'd be nice to own a cave for a lot of things. I would love to own a cave. And I live in one of the most cave-centric places there is. But, and I grew up right down the road from a cave. We used to bike down to it. We'd hang out in the cave. But, oh man. Oh, now you got me wanting to do a video about growing mushrooms in it. I might bike some blocks down to it and put them in there. Of course, it would be dark. I'd need to put some sort of light source in there. I've seen people do massive outdoor grows using LC. They used a modified garden sprayer to grow the LC into innocuous small pasture. Yeah, so that's definitely something. We're working on that with corn smut. I need to call fella after the live stream. Someone called me wanting for me to grow them some Huitlacoche inoculum for some late season corn they're planting. So I have got the initial batch of it before I expand it. I got to make sure he wants me to grow out that much, and do the backpack sprayer is pretty much the best way to do it. Is that you want the sporidia from the corn smut, and then you can backpack spray on that. There are people doing the hardwood. Hugh Brewer used to do very similar things to that, using wood lovers, and he would spray it in a 55-gallon drum, and he would put some wet wood chips in the bottom or some cardboard, spray it, wet wood chips, spray it, wet wood chips, spray it, and then over the season he would build this barrel up until the barrel was full, and then he would just like kick the barrel over into his wood patch and then just turn it and just kind of hack stuff out of it, and use that. I still think that he could have probably just sprayed it on directly to the wood chips, but I love enoki-toke. It's amazing in soups and stews. Enoki's hands down my favorite eating mushroom, just period. Oh, yeah, dude, they sent trike on purpose. Yeah, I've had that. I've had it twice. No return address. Not even sure how that moved through the mail system exactly, but yeah, it was or maybe one of them had a fake address or something. I don't remember. But yeah, somebody sent is a bag that had a bunch of trichoderma in it, and they had sliced the bag up a million different ways, so that whenever you opened it, it would just powder came, like the spore powder came out. It is evil. It absolutely is evil. But there are legitimately people who hate me. So, do you incorporate ozone into your clean rooms and lab? I don't. I've used ozone a little bit. It's not really been. It's fairly effective, but it's just not like what I've got works good enough and takes a lot less effort. So work smarter, not harder. That is exactly the way I look at it. So um, you definitely, yeah, you're very welcome, Shelly. You definitely want to just cut labor out, and it's something that a lot of people don't think about because a lot of people are willing to work for free when they're doing something they love, but you can't do that forever. So you got to be able to make sure that you're cutting everything out so that when you go to replace yourself, so that you can move up the food chain in your own company that you're building, um, or you even just so you can have some quality of life if you stay small. You know, it's you want to just eviscerate unnecessary labor. It's dirty that someone tried to contaminate your business. I mean, I agree with you. 100% I agree with you. Whoa, what happened to did the stream quit? Oh, that's weird. We went from like 40, 30 something, 30, 40 people to like 10. That was a weird drop. Yeah, my everything just kind of stopped for a minute. But yeah, it's definitely it's dirty to do it that way. That's not the kind of I don't know who it was. I don't even have a sneaking suspicion. So I might have a suspicion, but it's not a sneaking one. I got the newer one, Lean Microfarm. I've not read that one. Excellent book. In the U.S., we tend to have the mentality more is better, bigger, more fancier, do more with less, and make more money with less work. So that's something I really like about permaculture. Is permaculture wasn't about I'm not going to make a corn farm that's going to grow only corn, and that's I'm going to make pennies for my labor. Instead, they want regenerative systems that basically they don't just you know replace themselves. They grow and they grow. That's actually the hardest part about the wetland agriculture I'm finding is that everything I have to be out there pulling biomass out of the tubs and tanks because everything grows so well um, that it's literally reproducing itself and more. But it's kind of cool because I've not paid for fish food. I'm literally banking the excess growth from the season. All this extra sunlight is making azolla and duckweed and wolfia and algae, spirulinas and chlorellas. I'm taking all of that mermaid's hair algae and I'm putting that through the dehydrator and I powder it. I use that to raise baby fish. And I use the whole product to feed my tilapia. And it's so high protein that I don't, it's not a complete feed, but with a little bit of extra snails and black soldier fly larvae that are also being dried and then powdered later. I've got all the healthy fats and proteins. I can literally feed black soldier fly larvae, azolla, and duckweed, and it makes black soldier fly larvae protein, which then has the extra fat and all that stuff that we need. So it's a cool system. I like these systems where they just kind of build and they just kind of work, and you are the systems manager more than the grunt force, that's having to like. I'm setting up systems, and then I stock those systems, and then those systems just build. They just grow and grow, and it allows me to do more because the organisms are doing the hard work. That's what farming should be, in my opinion, is that the organisms should be grown in such a way that they're just doing what they want to do, and it makes your life easier. That's the my favorite thing in the world. And the lean farm, I remember he doesn't go into it exactly like that, but he's got some very compatible thoughts. Regenerative agriculture is awesome. Joel Salatin is. I love Joel Salatin. I love the Carbon Cowboys. I watch that every single short that comes out. I watch that. I like a lot of the regenerative agriculture folks. There's one who I love, and like he gets me all the time, where it's like he'll start riling me up, and I know he's doing it on purpose. I think it's called Blackbird Coop or something like that. He's the guy that does the "What is it now?" And he's like, "People shouldn't farm," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," And then he's like, basically, unless you know what you're getting into, and that there's some misery to it, and like, he's not exactly against. Like, he's at least understanding of why factory farming practices exist and all this stuff. Like, I love this guy. We're like 2 hours in. Um, I'll talk more about it. We're 2 hours in, so I'm gonna hit another uh, sponsor. It's is it me? No, we'll do my not me one today. Hey folks, welcome to another sponsorship for the Mushroom Cast. We're always talking about dialing in your grow setup, and when it comes to humidity, there's one name we trust, House of Hydro. These foggers are an absolute game changer for mushroom cultivation. House of Hydro's ultrasonic humidifiers put out an incredibly fine, cool mist. So fine, in fact, that mycelium can actually uptake it straight from the air. That means better hydration, better growth, happier mushrooms, and better yields. And let me tell you, these things are way easier to vent around your op than setting up full-on plumbing pressure systems. No pipes, no hassle, just perfect humidity right where you need it. And when you're working with the best, you want the best support. John at House of Hydro takes care of his customers better than anyone in the game. If you ever need help, they've got you covered. And because House of Hydro is sponsoring the Mushroom Cast, we've got a deal for you. Use code Mossy at checkout, and you'll get a full set worth of free replacement discs with your order. It's up to a $50 value. Get yourself a House of Hydro fogger. Your mushrooms will thank you. Keep spawning culture, y'all. Welcome back. I made it back in time. I'm gonna get the sauna running. After the live stream, I'm hitting the sauna. You guys got me for another 45 minutes, and then it's sauna town. So I started lifting heavy, and I told Samantha, I was like, oh my gosh, if I'm gonna lift heavy, this is doctor's orders actually, is to start lifting heavy again, which I'm so excited about because that's my favorite workout, is to do the strongman stuff. And I might even try to compete again. I'm 40, so I could be in the Masters League, I guess. Just means the old dude league. I'm old now. I'm officially old. I turned old in May. Working with nature rather than fighting it. Crazy idea. I know. To me, it's such a brain dead, simple thing. And what I have found is that a lot of people who like fight the regenerative ag stuff, they're not lazy. They're willing to work themselves to death, but they're kind of lazy thinkers, I guess is how I should put it. Or I don't really know. Maybe that's not it. What's that? Efficient? Well, I think that, like, I would rather, like, my grandfather, he would sit there and work on a problem mentally forever. It used to drive me crazy as a kid. We'd sit there and I was like, man, this man overthinks everything. And I would get so frustrated. And now, number one, I would die just to have 5 more minutes of that overthinking again. But the other side of it is, like, I totally get it now. I totally get it. Like, why sit there and do it 15 times the wrong way when you can sit there and just think about it for a while? That said, I'm also the kind who's like, you know what? If I don't know how to do it and I don't know how to approach it, it's best to just do it and then figure it out. But, like, he would sit there and, like, he always tried to work things to where they would, they'd be easy. They'd work with themselves. His house, he calculated out the angle of his eave so that in the wintertime, the sun would hit the windows all day because it was a south-facing house, and it was bermed on 3 sides, so it was underground. And then he calculated out the rate of heat transference through soil up to a certain depth, blah, blah, blah. During the summertime, the sun would be at a high angle, so it wouldn't hit the windows. He had a sunroom, which would build up heat in the wintertime. He could open a vent in the top, and it would pump heat throughout the rest of the house. I think his energy bill was ridiculously nothing. Like, I love that stuff. Yeah, boy, that's made me sad. I've started setting up to grow mushrooms again since my wife passed last year. I'm really sorry about that, Joe. And by the way, I remembered your name this time. Like the moment the stream was over last week, I was like, "Oh, Tennessee Stargazer. I know exactly who that is." Pink oysters, Phoenix oysters, and lion's mane. Pink oysters are, there's so much potential. I am really excited about this blue oyster, or there's not blue oyster, pink oyster breeding program. Um, I just feel like there's so much potential to be had in pink oysters, and I'm glad to see people growing them more. I think people should be growing them. Looks happy in there. Oh, the mushroom. Yeah, the room. Yeah, absolutely, man. I love. That's one of the things about the House of Hydro stuff, man. Is that I love being able to get that fog so thick. Like you'll be in there 1 minute, and then it'll be so thick you can put your hand out in front of you, and you can't see your hand. Like that stuff is so good. And I've not had like I've bought the cheap Chinese ones before. You know, when I'm like, oh shoot, I can't really afford this. And then I'll buy the House of Hydro stuff, and it's like the House of Hydro stuff lasts longer typically. And like even if it doesn't, man, I can call John up and or message him and get, you know, the customer service aspect is just phenomenal. I'm trying to get back into growing mushrooms again, but funds are tight right now. Plum, I get it, man. I get it, dude. When I went through my medical uh, problem 1.5, 2 years ago, whatever it was, I'm still recovering financially. Like funds can be tight for a lot of reasons, and it ain't fun to do it that way. I mean, will you just let me? I mean, so you feel how fibrous that is? I found that you can cook those down, but they just take forever. But I mean, this is way more tender. I mean, I don't think there'd be anything wrong if you sliced it thin and used some of it, but I don't know. Depends on how many more plants do you want to make? Because you could just keep the top and then the stem, and then just boop, put it in your. Go get your root bowl. I chop it up. No, I like to chop it up into strips. Show them your root bowl. But yeah, Plum, I totally get it, man. It's it's hard. It's hard, and it's hard to start anything and like that. Mushrooms. The nice thing about mushrooms is that you can use like cardboard. You can use boiling water. You don't, you know. So if a little bit of inoculum or a mother patch somewhere, and you can kind of you can jank your way to it. Like I janked my way and bootstrapped for a long time. Is she not bringing the bowl? Fair enough. I don't know where she went. That commercial reminded me of my Halloween fogger I made, and it made it too good. The police showed up. What? Tell me more about this. I have no idea what you're talking about. Is there somewhere I can see this? Like, what is like you? Oh, a Halloween fogger. Oh, so like you did outside. How'd you get the police called on you? So, hmm. She's got basil and pineapple sage. Man, she is cooking up a mess of something out there. Well, I was telling you guys I was hungry. Man, this pineapple sage stuff is phenomenal. I don't know. If it would do what? So that's Samantha's root bowl. So this was made a week ago. It's all water spinach, and it was all just the bits that we cast aside from the dinner. We're doing dinners every Wednesday. You're about to pour them on me. You're okay. It was very close. But it's man, so mushroom substrate in bags. Let it rot down a little bit into felt bags. Put the felt bags in a tray of water, and so they're standing about that far out. We have had so much water spinach ever since the heat kicked on. You know, like I mean, we've just got water spinach. It's growing feet. It's like you can sit there and watch it grow. And what's nice too is it's got a lot of nitrates in it. A lot of these aquatic veg have a lot of high nitrates, which is really good for your cardiovascular system. Helps keep my blood pressure down, which is cool. Especially since I'm old and fat. I overthink quite a bit, dude. This is like that's definitely I have been accused of that too many times. Wow, Gramps sounds like he was a great man. He was the best. He was also infuriating sometimes. He was just so So everything had to be done his way. I'm pretty sure that in this day and age he would have been diagnosed autistic. just just throwing that out there. Some people in my family may not like it if I say that, but he was very peculiar. He cared about people a lot, but he was definitely like things had to be a certain way kind of thing. So it was a little hard to live with when you and like I'm ADHD, right? So it's like he and I were like oil and water, but at the same time we were just an emulsified oil and water. Like right, we mixed really well somehow. The fog went into the street. Okay, that's so you made it to it worked too well. Oh man, I've got all these foggers and stuff. Why don't I do? I'm going all out this Halloween. I need to start now. I need to call Tristan up, the guy who's killed me 2 or 3 times on the channel for our Halloween stuff. If you guys haven't seen that, it's called "Don't Do Lab Work at Night." I think is what it was called. It was one of my Halloween specials, and my friend, my former employee, Myko Myers, you know, he and I are there late at night. So it's super interesting how piezoelectric atomizers work to make those foggers. The same tech as how they actuate motors to print nano. That's interesting. So I didn't know that, but I know that. So I, uh, there for a while, thought I was going to go into robotics, and so I was building these different robots and stuff. And to have them speak, I was using a breadboard and a piezoelectric element, and then I would send like pulses and frequencies through it to get it to make noise and stuff. And so I know a little bit about piezos just from that, but I didn't know that they were used for the nanometer semiconductors. That is super cool. I'm very interested in that stuff for sure. Master Spore says, I used a huge trash can on wheels, and the electronics were right under the lid. Below that dumped a big bag of ice. Then I had a fogger on the bottom, and an exhaust fan forced it out. So it's just a trash can spewing fog out into the world. That's pretty hilarious. So, and I also had a regular fogger, so it was a mix of mist and fog. That's pretty legit. Did you put lights through it, or lasers, or like I bet some astronomy lasers through that would look really, really badass. Speaking of the astronomy lasers, you can get on Amazon fairly cheap now, and I've used those. You can hold the beam under a mushroom cap, and you'll see the spore dispersal just light up. Like it's super cool, and I bet I could get some really cool slow motion footage of that these days. Oh, and I have the cinema camera with slow motion, so I can do 120 frames per second with a laser and a high, like I could do 4K. No, it's 1080p at 120 frames per second. I have the older camera. So you could definitely do that, though. That'd be super cool. I will film it. I will. I will. I'm going to have to set it up at some point. And I don't have, until these grow bags are done, I don't have anything else in the grow room for a little bit. Though I am apparently going to have, like I said, the doctor told me I'm supposed to eat mushrooms 3 times a week. Unless I want to go on medication, which I don't. And I'll take mushrooms before medication. A hole above the water level for the exit, and the fogger itself had lights. It was too powerful and rolled all the way out of the yard and into the street. See, that sounds like a great Halloween thing. I'm totally cool with that. I think that sounds amazing. I bet the kids loved it. Unless you were being scary. I remember my parents took me to I think there was fog in that. But they took me to this haunted house. Mom said it was not supposed to be that bad. It was somebody that my dad worked with or something. I just remember him coming out with a chainsaw. Nowadays, I feel like I can remember there wasn't a blade on the chainsaw. I'm sure there wasn't, but he had it revved up, and this guy came out just like I remember being scared to death, but I don't remember what happened. And my mom said, I guess that I ran in place or something. I don't remember. She's like, I feel so bad. I was like, you shouldn't. It is a core memory of mine at this point. It's a very core memory, but it's one that I actually now I'm like, okay, no, that was a safe place to be scared. I don't feel like we give our children safe places to be scared anymore, right? We need to start telling those old stories again. Uh, Best Halloween I've ever had was at Busch Gardens in Tampa. Wow, that's interesting. I've never thought about going to a theme park. Man, it must have been weird growing up with Halloween not, in the rural areas. We went trick or treating. There's like 2 or 3 neighborhoods where we would go to, and I grew up kind of weird. I grew up kind of like, so I grew up in the country, and then grew up in rural suburbia, and so it was kind of like country, not country. Um, so I definitely got like, by the time I was in middle school, my parents and I lived in my parents got a house and we were living in that. Before that, we lived from like kindergarten on up to middle school. I lived with my grandparents, my parents too, like my parents and myself and my brother. We all lived with my grandparents. The point is that we would do like they would take us out to different neighborhoods and different places, and we would be able to hit that. But I didn't like have Halloween the same way that a lot of people in the cities and stuff did. Oh, did they crack? No, no, they still smell good. Oh my gosh, it's mouth watering. It's black cherry. Those are black cherry tomatoes, and the black cherry tomatoes from rareseeds.com, Baker Creek. It's like the best tomato. It's like a purple Cherokee, but bite size, and it produces like they just produce all season long. So our tomatoes are finally coming in. I do always try to grow at least one Mr. Stripey plant, Mr. Stripey tomato in honor of Gramps, because that was like his favorite. Even though I feel like there are better varieties now, there's always that one just to make sure. Black cherry tomatoes are amazing. Yeah, man, like that's that thing is like it's so good. I love any of the purple and the blue tomatoes typically. It's like sweet tart, sweet savory, sweet. I don't even know, but they're fantastic. Oh, I forgot to turn the overhead light on. Didn't notice till now. My son is an actor at a corn maze. He uses a flamethrower, not in the maze, but at the entrance for a group center. That's hilarious. I will say we do have one thing. This big haunted house that showed up. Maybe it was when I was in high school or shortly after, and I have never gone. And it's like a huge event. People come from counties all over the place to go there. No, no, no. No, that's an experiment that needs to be experimented on separately. Oh, I just got an alert. Trouble streaming. So that's maybe it's where we dropped people, because that's what I was saying. Like we definitely. So I'm getting notifications we're having problems with the stream. I mean, it's okay. We're getting close to the end, but all right. So another thing I wanted to talk about real quick was an announcement. Um, looks like we've built some of the audience back up from a couple sources, but is that been talking, and I think that we still got to work out a couple of details and before we get it all like put together. But we're talking about I've got a partner that we're going to um, team up with to do mentorships again. So we're going to be bringing that back. The idea here is that I will teach for 2 days. I'm going to teach the um, laboratory side of things. So I'll teach like 2 days of the week, and then I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see. We'll talk to him. Like I said, we got to work out the details before we make the actual official announcement. But it looks like Josiah is going to be doing the grow out portion. So the bagging, the sterilizing, the selling, the grow room design, all of that stuff. So we're talking about doing all of that, and I think that that's going to make for a major increase in value of the mentorships. I mean, I always felt like it was a good value already because we've had a lot of people go off and be very successful, but this will get people like Josiah grows more mushrooms now than I did at my peak. Josiah had done a mentorship with me, so he knows a lot of the things I teach and some of the things that he's figured out on his own. And then, of course, I've gotten more and more specialized into the lab work side of things. So, it allows us to do the specialties that make us great. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then we have that affiliate program I was telling you guys about where we're bringing in to people to do an affiliation with us. where they can, if you've got an audience or whatnot, and you want to showcase our strains, and then have a code where people get a discount and you get a commission. Um, I want to recruit you. So, um, and I'll probably do that with the plant tissue culture work too when we start the sales of that up. Right now, I'm working with starting up some wholesale accounts where we're selling the plant tissue culture first, but then we'll start offering a retail online. And if you guys want to check it out, it's not anywhere finished, but Spanda's been working on mossykreekaquatics.com, so we've been working on that, and yeah, it's starting to come together. I'm starting to really enjoy the look and the feel of that. So, and then we've got more things going on the website, but these strain releases I've been talking about, we're finally right on the verge of getting some of these things out the door and on mossykreekmushrooms.com. So the behind the scenes work that we're doing is looking pretty dang good. So I'm pretty excited to be able to offer all that stuff again, and with the terms and conditions aspect worked out, plus the strain leasing, there'll be some strains that'll never be released to the public. That'll be reserved for commercial leases, but we do have a line of the interesting phenotypes and some of the improved lines coming out. So it's pretty exciting. Oh, I don't know if I told you guys this, but it was after the last live stream, I think, because it was Friday when I cloned it. So Ben brought it to me Friday and I cloned it then, I guess, or maybe he brought it to me Thursday and I mentioned it. Either ways, albino gold. Ben brought me this old, crusty looking, pure white golden oyster from the wild here. So most certainly a transplant, but an albino gold. Just excited to see if it ends up being leucistic or what. But it is. I confirmed today that was one of the hardest oysters I've ever had to clone. The stems were so small, it was old, and it was just riddled with beetle larvae. And it took me forever to get a clean sample off that. But I have confirmed clean growth, obviously oyster. You can even smell the golden oyster smell through the parafilm. So, very excited to have an albino gold oyster. I don't know. Well, like, it's such a weird thing. I don't know what the case usage will be, but I don't know anyone else who's got an albino gold. Is there an albino gold oyster out there? We should check. Albino golden oyster mushroom. Rare white genetic mutation in the normally bright yellow. I don't see anyone having it, though. Just have people showing the oysters. So, well, that's cool. That means that I might be the first to bring it to market. So, pretty stoked about that. And are you guys just not talking, or is my chat messed up again? Everybody went silent. That's weird. And man, I can smell that smoker. You can tell my ADHD's kicking in, can't you? Samantha's got that smoker going, and the smell. She's cooking some meat and onions. I can smell that. Garlic and onions, greens. That's making me hungry. But yeah, we'll somebody say something, because my chat is not moving. I might have to pop that thing out. There we go. Okay, so someone is there. You still been working out? Your arms are looking big, man. I have been, yeah. And in fact, I started lifting heavy last week, and so I've had only 2 so far. But you guys will probably be seeing a pretty fast increase in muscle size, especially my shoulders, from this workout, and hopefully a lack of belly forming. So I've been doing moderate weightlifting because it's supposed to be the best for your longevity health. But after looking into my blood work, my hormone levels, my vitamin D, my inflammatory markers. I love this doctor I've got, by the way. They did a whole full blood panel and really went into a bunch of stuff. And anyways, the whole point is that I need to be lifting heavy. And she was like, "Yep, that sounds like what you need to do. You need to lift heavy, not necessarily long." She's like, "I don't want you doing grinding sessions." She's like, "Your cardio should be something like, we talked it through kettlebell swings, farmers carries. I should go on walks, that kind of stuff." But she's like, "I don't want you running marathons or, do any of that stuff." And I was like, "Doc, do I really look like I'm running marathons?" But I was talking to her about how I used to weight train and do the Highland Game exercises and stuff, and so I really want to get back into that. But I appreciate it, man. My arms are feeling a lot bigger, and there's just something, isn't there, about heavy lifting where you feel better. Like you just feel powerful, you feel big. Um, who knows? I'm going to get the door buster frame back, but not only am I working out, I've been just doing a recovery workout for the past year and a half, and now I'm back into the I want to advance again. I mean, I'm 40. I'd like my 40s to be the best shape I've ever been in. We'll see. I think I have a how-to on the Fogger if you want me to send it to you. Yeah, man, absolutely. If I don't think you can link it into the chat, but if you want to put like the video title in here, other people can go check it out too. If you send it to me, I might be able to link it during the next stream. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if I think I can link stuff. I think I've done it before. Let's try it real quick. Okay, yeah, looks like I can link. I don't know if that link works for you guys in the chat, but looks like I can at least put it down. Good job, man. I've been in the gym for 6 months straight now, longest I've been consistent. Heck, man, congratulations. That discipline, that consistency over time, that's what it is, man. It's just weightlifting over consistency over time. And I appreciate you noticing the gains. My grip right now. Oh man, don't let me get a hold of you if you if you make me back. Like I've got like an iron grip at this point. That's what I was telling Samantha. I was like, if I'm lifting heavy though, I do get inflammation from it. I'll get really tight, and so the sauna. That's about the only thing that's just like the sauna's like life saving at that point, just life altering. So I can't click on the links. I don't know if you guys can. Yeah, for sure. I think it's also helped me stay consistent growing mushrooms too. So that's one of the interesting things that I noticed as well is that weightlifting has actually like when I started weightlifting years ago, it's like a framework. It was like the weightlifting sessions were the bones to my life, to my weekly life. I would have these little hard points, and no matter what, I just would not. I would like, oh, you guys are gonna go out and eat. I'm working out right then. I'm sorry, I'm not going out to eat. Or I'll do it after, but I'm not gonna do it right then. And it allowed me to frame my entire week around that. It gave me that hard point, and I guess you can do that with anything, but the workout was like I got that hard point that I didn't necessarily. In the beginning, I did not enjoy weightlifting, but then you start getting the endorphins from that consistency. You start getting the lower blood pressure. You feel more relaxed. All of that kind of stuff. Like I hated weightlifting when I started, but after a while, you learn it's like an old friend. And if you just look at it as something that you're just going to do, no matter what, this is what I'm going to do. I had the biggest help was a buddy of mine. Taught me that to use a low, medium, high, which sounds stupid simple. Like you don't really think it's going to be that effective, but I started using this for mushrooms as well for work. There is a mandatory minimum, and the mandatory minimum is defined by what is the least I can do without taking a step backwards, right? So for mushrooms, or weightlifting, it could be I need a minimum of this many reps, this many sets, whatever, to keep myself from falling backwards. The mushroom work, it could be you can start your calculations out. I need this many pounds of mushrooms. I need this many bags, which means it tells me how many spawn bags I need, which tells me how much liquid culture I need, right? So no matter what, that's my mandatory minimum. But then you have your, like, today is my normal, and your normal day should be set up to where if you just work your normal schedule, nothing crazy, just a normal schedule, your life should be built up in such a way where you should have this normal planned out. By normal is not just not taking a step back. Normal is that you will slowly advance, right? So every day that I work my normal schedule, I am not stepping backwards and I'm advancing. My mandatory minimum is so that I never fall back, and that has to be accomplished no matter what. I get to decide that. I get to go to the gym and go, it's a low day for me, it's a medium day for me, or an average day. Or, and these are always the best days. Fine. Then you have your fire breathing days, which are when you are just, you're ready to smoke the dragon, man, to just absolutely eviscerate that agent of chaos that keeps you from achieving your goals and whatnot. So it's not going to stay in my beard. It's too heavy. Man, these double or triple zinnias or whatever they are, this thing has got so many pedals. But that's really helped me. Like, I can do that with everything. And all I have to do, like, you can be really kind to yourself. This was something that I don't know why. It was like I would be feeling good, so I'd make a to-do list, and that to-do list would be based on how I'm feeling. So when I was feeling bad, I would never get my to-do list down, which would make me feel guilty, which would make me feel bad. But if you just go, no, this is bare minimum, and then I get to schedule in playtime, I get to schedule in whatever time, as long as I meet my bare minimum, that's all I got to do, right? That keeps me from falling back. And what I found was if I just showed up and did the bare minimum for 2 weeks, I got bored. So the next time I would do a fire breathing day or a normal day or whatever, and I would just allow those things to be thrown in, and that really helped me. Like, that really helped me big time. It helped me with mushrooms. It helped me with creative endeavors. It helped me with working out. Just having that ability and that choice. It was so empowering to go into the gym and just go, I get to choose, right? Which you do get to choose, but then you might have some guilt of, like, oh, I'm not doing my best. I don't have to do my best. I just have to not fall backwards today. That's all I got to do. I just got to go in, do my minimum, and then rest. So, yes, the link works for me. Excellent. Okay, so we can do that. So, Master Spore, if you send, I don't know, you can try it. The algorithm may shut it down. I'm afraid to ask you to try because I don't want you getting kicked or something. You can always send it to me, and then maybe next week I could show it to people if you're willing to share it. Yeah, I wish I'd started a long time ago. I'm in my early 40s too, and want to be in better shape than in my 40s than when I was younger. Yeah, so thankfully I had that same friend came back and was talking to us about, this was when we were 30. And he's like, you got to have something to build on, right? And like, so as you age, we get to a point where you start degrading no matter what, right? Like you can't fight it anymore. But you get in there, and if you work until, like, you advance until you hit that age, right? You're investing in yourself and you're increasing till you hit that age, then you've got more to lose. And they literally talk about this with bone health. If you got denser bones, which by the way, weightlifting helps with, if you got denser bones, then as you get older, let's say you're a woman, and you start hitting your 50s and you're getting 60s, getting osteoporosis. When do women start getting osteoporosis? Anyways, as you start getting like advanced osteoporosis, well, if you started off with denser bones, then you have more to lose before you become more frail, right? Another thing, like, don't lose your ability to get into a squat, that kind of thing, because it's for one thing, being able to squat and work while you're in a squat, cleaning mushroom racks, it's really nice to be able to do that. But number two, if you can keep that ability to get up and down and do all that kind of stuff, and you continue to practice that, the worst thing you can do as an older person really is to fall, right? Like you fall and you break a bone. So right now, you know, if you do break falls and learn how to fall, so go to like a jiu-jitsu club, get the mats, you know, learn to break fall, learn to roll, learn to fall without hurting yourself, and then Turkish get-ups to learn how to get up. If you fall and have a shelf pulled over on you, a Turkish get-up is going to show you how to get out of that, right? So you do all these things to like as I age, these things will protect me. But in the moment, they give me a better quality of life and they make me more productive. And I just freaking I love that stuff. I'm 70. My mind tells me I feel in my 30s. Body tells me I'm in my 90s. Yeah, that's the fear. I don't want to feel that way, man. I felt like I was 90 since I was young. I feel like I didn't realize that I was gonna feel worse as I got older. But yeah, like especially with the inflammation. I've always had that. You can send it to your site if you want. You can, yeah, through the contact us form, mossykreekmushrooms@gmail.com. That's a good email to send it to. One second, guys. We're going to do one more sponsor, and then we'll see where we're at from there.
Introducing the future of mycology, Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery. This isn't your average culture mix. It's a revolution in a packet, crafted for the dedicated cultivator seeking unparalleled growth. Experience the visual alchemy of this masterful brew. As you mix 10 grams with 500 milliliters of water, watch the solution transform into a rich, amber spectacle, the hallmark of a nutrient-dense sanctuary for your burgeoning mycelium. This is where vibrant color meets vibrant life, setting our elixir apart from the ordinary clear liquid cultures. Prepare to be captivated. Mix 10 grams of Dr. Silurian's elixir with 500 milliliters of water, add a stir bar for thorough integration, and sterilize the blend at 15 psi for 45 minutes. Once cooled, introduce your favorite culture into this perfectly prepared, nutrient-rich environment. Watch in awe as the elixir works its magic, unveiling a mycelial masterpiece before your eyes. Choose Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery for a mycological adventure that's as visually enchanting as it is potent.
Those notification sounds were my phone in that. I'm always bothered by that. I was like, I need to refilm that. But yeah, Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery. Get you some. If you want the best growth, unparalleled performance, you want the best LC premix. You just waving to wave, or do you want something? Just wave. What's up? You want to talk to the people? No. No. Do what? You want to leave that to me? Well, all right, guys. I guess we're gonna go ahead and end it then. I don't see any more comments, questions, or concerns. So I'm gonna go see what Samantha's cooking up, and then I'm gonna probably sauna. Yeah. So I'm about to have a good old hot, sweaty time in a sauna. But if you guys need anything, use the contact us form on the page. If there's anything we can do for you guys, check out that affiliate program. Check out Dr. Silurian's. Check out Rhizofunga, by the way. I meant to tell you guys about that too. Rhizofunga, use code Mossy. Saves you 10% on your order. It's the best induction sterilizer I've come across. I use it every day in my lab. I use it for plant tissue culture work. I use it for yeast work. I use it for mushroom work. So it's one of the tools that I use every single day. Code Mossy for that. Code Mossy for House of Hydro too. All right, guys. If you all, not if you all, you already told you that. I'm falling apart. Samantha, help me. I don't know how to end.